Welcome, everyone. This is the meeting of the Rutland Town Select Board for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2024. We have a very full agenda tonight. So we'll start with please rise and join me for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have minutes of our May 7th meeting in our packet. People had a chance to review them. Is there any motion?
To approve. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Any additions, deletions, corrections? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Any board announcements? Nope. Okay. And I don't have any announcements. So are there any public comments or requests from the floor to be heard on anything that's not otherwise on the agenda? Anyone zooming in who has anything to say if you're not otherwise on the agenda? Okay. So we're going to go down under action items. We've got two things here that are combined. So this is A and B. The board is meeting with the owners of the Cortina Inn, and I noticed that Mr. Dhruv Kumar is here. So thank you very much. And we also have invited and are pleased to have representatives from the State Agency of Human Services. We have Commissioner Chris Winters. Is it Commissioner or Secretary?
It is Commissioner.
Okay. And we have Todd Delos? Okay. And we have Adam Sanchik. Very good. Thank you. Welcome all. And we have Lily Sojourner on Zooming in as well. We're chuckling because on the desks of each of the select board members is the picture from the high school yearbook, Rutland High School class of whenever it was, showing the two most likely to succeed, Lily Sojourner and Matt Getty. So you folks already have a history. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. As you know, the Cortina Inn has been housing the homeless under a couple of different voucher programs. And we hear the occasional rumor, and that's why we asked to talk with you. The rumors range from the state of Vermont is going to buy the Cortina Inn and turn it into a homeless housing or some kind of housing for those close to homelessness. The other rumor we hear is that the state of Vermont is going to lease the Cortina, a long-term lease for homeless housing. And we don't hear these things directly from you folks because we haven't really been in touch with you folks. We hear it from our friends in the city, and we hear it from people at Reddick. You know, you come down, everybody knows you're in the area looking at places that might be good for homeless housing or whatever it is. So we keep hearing these rumors, and we thought we would invite you to come in and tell us your plans. We have been, obviously, our town has been impacted by the housing of the homeless. We entered into a contract. There was an Act 250 proceeding. There was a settlement agreement that under which the Cortina is paying the town for some of the impacts that housing the homeless is causing there. Mr. Kumar will confirm that the payments are right on. They've all been made. But it's creating a toll on our town, our police services, in the past, our fire services. And I'm sure our school is impacted, although they were not part of conversations because of the confidentiality that they're bound by. So in short, please tell us what your plans are, and please tell us what the prospect is for long-term housing here, what the state's going to do to help these folks. And I guess I'll just turn it over to you. Individual board members may have questions, but basically it's tell us your plans, please.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Ashcroft. And for the record, my name is Chris Winters. I'm the Commissioner of the Department for Children and Families.
I think it would be best if you moved up there, and then people who are zooming in can see you, and it's going to record better. So, and you can bring up anybody you want.
Yeah,
with
would you mind if the Deputy Secretary,
okay.
and just so that everybody knows, this Deputy Secretary Todd Delos. So he is my boss,
Okay.
And the Deputy Secretary to Secretary Jenny Samuelson, who is the head of the Agency of Human Services. She reports directly to the governor.
Gotcha.
So thank you. I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you all about what we're doing in Rutland and trying to do across the state to shelter people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And we do understand the impact that it has, particularly in Rutland, because you've had more folks in our general assistance housing program than in the rest of the state. This is where the hotel rooms were during COVID. We were seeking hotel rooms to put people into non-congregate shelters to protect them, and that program grew. I started as DCF commissioner just over a year ago, so a lot of this predates me, but at the time, that's how general assistance housing expanded. We've been trying to reduce that program, and this is really good timing because the budget has just passed in the legislature. And we know what the legislature wants us to do with the general assistance housing program and with shelters. So I can maybe start there and also start by saying that we agree that temporarily housing people in hotels and motels is not the best plan. It's not a long-term plan. It's not the answer. We need longer-term permanent housing to move people into. And in terms of emergency shelter, those traditional shelters are what we know works best. Shelters that are supported with services, with housing navigation, moving people into permanent situations is what they need to be successful in their lives, and not warehousing people in hotels and motels. We need more affordable housing online faster. I'm sure you talk about that a lot here in Rutland Town. I know they do in Rutland City as well, so that we have units to move people into and not just keep them in temporary shelter. So to speak to the current state of the program, we now have a budget that was passed by the legislature, and we know what it funds for emergency housing and for shelters. It does include a reduction in the number of hotel rooms that we are using across the state in the non-adverse weather months. So in the warmer months, when it's not cold outside, we have a cap of 1,100 hotel rooms across the state. That's what was passed in the budget. That budget, I should say, is sitting on the governor's desk right now. He has not signed it at this point or let it go into law. So it's not actual law yet, but it is sitting on the governor's desk. Beginning in September, we have to do that reduction down to 1,100 rooms, or by September. So we're going to start looking specifically at Rutland, where we know we have more hotel rooms per capita than in other places in the state. So just so that you know, our plans are to reduce the number of hotel rooms that we're using in Rutland City and in Rutland Town because it's disproportionate. And if we're going to spread those 1,100 hotel rooms across the state, we want to do it in a way that meets the need of the particular area. And we're going to do that based on population. We're going to do that based on need in the community. And so we know Rutland is a place where we need to really shrink that number. I think we have about 400 hotel rooms that we're using in the Rutland area right now. We know it needs to be significantly less than that. We're making plans to bring it down. The other part about the program is that starting on July 1, under the new law, people who are in the hotel motel program have to elect when to use their 80 days in a year. So they're getting a limited number of days. For a while, there was this cohort that was in there indefinitely through the legislative process. Now people have to elect when to use their 80 days in a year. So starting July 1st, some people who have other options may move out of the hotels, move to other options, and choose to use their 80 days sometime, at some other time in the year. Some people won't have other options. They'll stay in on July 1, and that 80 days will run out sometime in mid-September. So that's another time period when we might see people coming out of the hotels and motels. As far as, you asked us what our plans are. You mentioned buying the Cortina and turning it into a shelter or turning it into housing. I will say that as part of our long-term plans, and I will say we have no specific plans for Rutland. We have no specific plans for the Cortina, but one of our strategies has been that a way to achieve quick, affordable housing is to convert hotels and motels. And we've seen it done about 20 times across the state in the last several years, usually with a small hotel motel. There's one right near where I live on the Barry Montpelier Road. It's happened in Burlington. The Ho Hum Motel was one that very recently happened. It's a quick and easy and fairly affordable way to convert units into small, affordable housing developments. We don't have any specific plans for that for Rutland at this point in time. We are always looking for opportunities to create new traditional shelters or affordable housing. So if an opportunity comes up, we try to bring partners together to do that. We recently had a conversation in Rutland. I was here last week to talk about the Loretto home, and can we get supportive services behind that to run that as potentially a shelter, as potentially affordable housing, transitional housing, a place where people can have services connected to their shelter and move on to be successful in more permanent opportunities. So that's a place where we did see an opportunity, and we are looking at it. Who knows what'll come of it, but that's the kind of opportunity that we're looking for. Again, nothing with the Cortina. I think you also asked about a long-term lease. We have been talking to hotels and motels about entering into long-term leases to try to get a better deal for the state, to try to get them to provide services and up their standards. So if we go into a long-term lease with a hotel or motel, and we've done a couple across the state, we guarantee to pay for a block of rooms. They in return guarantee things like a space for providers to come in, service providers, or they guarantee that they're going to add additional services, meet health codes, up their standards within the hotels themselves. I don't believe we have entered into a long-term lease with the Cortina. I think Miranda Gray, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Economic Services, can confirm that. But I don't believe we've entered into any sort of long-term lease with the Cortina. Miranda, would you like to chime in on that?
Yes, happy to, Commissioner. So for the record, Miranda Gray, I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Economic Services, and that is correct. There was a letter of intent which we had engaged in with the Cortina, but the lease is not finalized at this point.
So there is a letter of intent to move forward with a long-term block of rooms at the Cortina.
The lease would be through June 30th. As the Commissioner had mentioned, now that we had engaged in this process before we knew what law potentially could be, and with this reduction in rooms, we're having to reassess what our need will be across the state. And as the Commissioner mentioned, we know we don't need as much capacity that we have in Rutland as we have currently.
So hopefully I've answered some of your questions. I know there are always concerns about the impacts on things like your police force or your emergency services, the number of calls you receive when you have that many people trying to live in a small space like that. I think it's over 100 rooms right now at the Cortina, and we do recognize the impact that that's had on Rutland. And we are here to answer your questions, to respond to your concerns, to see if there's anything that we can do as a state to be a better partner to minimize those impacts on the town and on the city.
One of the things that I want to be sure that you're aware of is that we do have a written settlement agreement with the Cortina. It is designed and it's stated to run with the land. So anyone who comes in to use the property or to buy the property is going to be bound by those terms. And in fact, we included in it some of the various provisions for amenities, including outdoor and indoor play places for the children, because we know there are kids down there. The meeting space for the service providers that come in, maintaining everything in good repair, particularly the laundry rooms, to make sure that there is one secure entrance and that the back entrances, which had been used freely, were alarmed. Alarms were put on them so people couldn't be coming in and out, and that all entry had to be through the front. We asked our health officer to go down and inspect, and he has found, various infractions, including most recently a break in the sewer line so that there was sewage bubbling up through the front yard in the Cortina. We also requested rules of occupancy, and being provided with copies of that. And we also requested a criminal background check for people who work at the Cortina full-time and part-time. And we asked them, and they agreed not to hire anyone who was on the sex offender registry. Again, a vulnerable population down there, including children and the disabled. So anything that you do, I would strongly encourage you to have at least these provisions in here. Many years ago, I was one of your foster parents, and I knew in order to have kids in our home from DCF, we had to go through inspections, fingerprinting, criminal background checks, all of the things that should be in any contract you have. And then one other provision in here that's very important to us, and that is a recognition that this housing is temporary and short-term, and that the ultimate goal of everyone is to bring back the Cortina as a conference center and a hotel. This was a great gathering place. There were wedding receptions, retirement parties, meetings, many activities down there, and we'd like to see, it was a vibrant part of the community, and we really would like to see that again. We are proud of the model here in town for housing up on Woodstock Avenue. It is a bridge housing program, and it is run by, I think, Rutland Housing Authority, Kevin Loso and Rutland Housing Authority. And it provides in-house wraparound services for people who have moved from usually the hospital into a temporary facility to learn how to be good tenants and learn how to take care of their homes. That's the model we'd point you toward. We're proud of that. And we would like to see, if you're going to do it, do those things. And please, the warehouse approach, I don't think is a healthy one. I don't think it's helpful. So we recommend all of these things to you, but we want an end, please. And the Cortina area is probably not the best place to put long-term housing. So with that said, we have other members of our select board who I'm sure have some questions, or you might have comments.
And I'm not sure, the commissioner may know this for the record, Todd Delos, Deputy Secretary of AHS. Chair, do we have a copy of the settlement, or could we have a copy
You
of the
can.
settlement?
I just happen to have one with me. So,
That would be extremely
okay.
helpful.
Oh, I haven't signed it, but I mean, I did sign the original, so I'm just going to. Drew did sign this copy.
Thank you.
I did provide a copy to Representative Paul Clifford when he was asking earlier about, what we did. And so
I was aware of some of the terms of the agreement. I've been to the Cortina a couple of times. I've met with Mr. Sachdev. I think I've met Drew before. I've spoken to people who stay there. when I first became commissioner, I came down and gathered a bunch of folks to talk to them about what it meant to them. And so I really appreciate everything that you've said. These are the sorts of things that we're looking at in the long-term leases, the standards and the services that are really much needed to set people on a successful path versus just kind of warehousing.
You will need to get an Act 250 permit amendment, and the select board and our planning commission will be parties in that process. So,
and I just want to be clear, I'm not stating any intent that we're trying to convert the Cortina into any sort of a shelter or long-term housing. That is a part of our overall strategy across the state as we look at increasing housing capacity and shelter capacity.
select board members. Kurt,
I think I'm all set.
okay?
I think everything's been covered.
Joe,
With regards to the conditions that we put into the agreement with Drew, as far as making available space for state agencies to come in to work with these folks, are state agencies doing this? Is somebody there daily, weekly to work with these people to help them mitigate that situation they're in? I think most of us all here agree that this environment is not productive to the end goal that I think, everybody would like to see. I know you said it was a temporary or situation with the COVID and stuff, and now it's snowballed into 4 years later. We're still here and we still don't have a plan and I think those are my biggest concerns, whether or not these services are being provided to help these people better themselves or find something in a statewide plan to deal with homeless that doesn't use this type of facility and this type of thing. Even if the state bought that place and renovated it and did it, it's still not a good environment. I don't think having 140 rooms and 200 plus individuals housed together, the folks that really need those services are being shortchanged because the people that are there, and we all know there are people there that probably shouldn't be there, but they can make it through the voucher program, they can qualify, and they're there. And they're bad elements that influence the folks that are stressed, down on their luck, and some of the alternatives look encouraging. And I think that breeds some of the problems that our police department has to deal with. 2 or 3 bad individuals out on their own, not a big deal. But when you get them in this situation and they are, I guess, contaminating the folks that aren't that way, but now this other lifestyle is kind of looking intriguing because what do we got to lose? We're down on our luck. Look at this. And the criminal activity and the activity down there is just overwhelming. And I would hope that this would be an example of what not to do. That would be, I'd really like to get that across to the folks in Montpelier, you people, to bring back putting people into apartment type complexes where they're still all together, even though they might own them or rent them. It just, I don't know, but I don't know what, and I don't have the answer to that, what we need to do here. With the amount of employment opportunities, you see, people want it everywhere. I'm not sure if this is making it too easy for folks to not want to work. I guess I don't know, but everywhere I look, there's help wanted this, and if we could educate folks to a task or a trade or be able to work somewhere and give them some encouragement, that's a whole lot better way. But to me, it's just like, I don't want to say turning a blind eye and throwing money at a problem, but it kind of looks that way. From somebody from the outside looking in, the state's dumping a lot of money down there. We're just putting them down there and hopefully they'll either get better or go away. And I think there's got to be more activity than that, and I hope that there's maybe something out there that'll help.
I appreciate the question and agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I will say the state's position is that this is not the best use of state money. This is not the best way to go about helping people who need help. When we look at setting up a new shelter, We don't look at creating something that's 120 units because we know that that's problematic. We look at something that's maybe 30 or 40 units is the best practice. And so we are trying to move away from the hotel motel program. One of the problems that we have is we have prevention activities that we do. We have subsidies to help move people into more permanent housing, but we don't have units to move them into. There is a housing crisis, and finding those units to get people out of hotels and into other places is the real challenge. I would defer, if it's okay with you, to Adam Sansick to talk a little bit about the services that are or maybe are not being provided at the Cortina. I think that was your original question, was, is the state, are the service providers engaged with the people who are staying at the Cortina now? If you don't mind, Adam.
And we've had consistently staff there. What that looks like with regards to level of engagement and willingness to engage with staff is one of the questions, that's one of the challenges that we have. The capacity of that staff, with the limited staff. To answer your question, we've had probably 3 different iterations where we've had at least 1 to 2, 2 to 3 staff at any given time that are covering the hotels, both city and hotel limits. I've got a worker currently, David Delgado, who's in the hotels every single day, attempting to support that work. But it's a challenge. Like, I don't want to misrepresent the challenge there. And part of it is engagement, and part of it is understanding that these folks have very complex needs, disabilities, other things that make it really difficult to engage in services at times, and not to their fault, but to capacity issues within, whether it be home nursing, whether it be behavioral health, and shortage of social workers. So it's complex, and the attempt is there, the supports are there. There's other agencies that are fully engaged in this work, but capacity is a concern.
If I could just add one other thing, Chair, I think you raise a really important point, which is what we see often in these congregate settings, whether it's the GA program or other programs that the Agency of Human Services runs. More frequently than not, the clients for the agency are victims of crime rather than perpetrators, but the point is really well taken that type of congregate setting can be attractive to a criminal element. And we completely recognize the challenges that law enforcement faces with that scope and scale. I know that through Adam and other folks in the city's Project Vision, that most of the calls they're getting are GA hotel program calls. And what we intend to do in the coming months is increase our ability to have folks who may actually be in the program but are causing some kind of public safety concern engaged more fully in either treatment services or exiting the program if it turns out to be something that is extremely disruptive to the hotel and the services there. And we really want to work in partnership with our hotel providers exactly around that, so that if law enforcement is seeing repeat calls for individuals in locations, we're able to work with them more closely to determine what's causing that kind of disruption and how we can intervene most effectively.
We see biweekly reports from our police department, and 80% of the calls are that end of town and that area. So you don't have to look far to know what's going on there. And anecdotally, I hear about once a week from our police chief of yet another time when he has had to go down there and what he has seen and what he has had to help DCF with, for example. So it's a problem. Sharon, and then Matt.
Well, first and foremost, I better explain something to you. For 40 years, I ran the Open Door Mission, which is a homeless shelter. Now, I'm going to tell you up front, I have 4 women staying at the mission now who are petrified south of the city because of the drugs, because of the behaviors. No one has even come to us at the mission to ask us, what do you think? What do you think can be done? So we were the largest provider for a lot of years, but nobody's interested in what we have to say. And I'm here to tell you that there are good people down there, but there are a lot of people that don't belong there. And they call their friends all over the country to come to Rutland because you get 3 hots and a cot, doesn't cost you a penny. So you should be aware of that. The mission has run successfully for many, many years, but it's with rules. It's a hand up. It's not a handout. And the people of Rutland City respect us because of that. When they can go to the Cortina and they can drink and they can do their drugs, that's not helping anybody, including those that need help. And, you know, I think Adam can speak to the fact that we've always been willing to work with Adam. He's very open-minded. His hands are tied because he's told by the state what has to be done, which isn't fair. We need to take care of these people, but it has to be a hand up. Not a handout doesn't work. The women that are staying there now were petrified down at the Cortina. Absolutely petrified. When I go down shopping in the Green Mountain Plaza, I won't go without my husband there. This is a woman that spent 40 years of her life working with the homeless. But I won't go down there and shop without my husband in the car waiting for him, because it just, and the people down in the stores down there have said to me, aren't you a select board member? Yes, I am. Why aren't you doing something about it? I said, our hands are tied. They said they come into our stores, they walk out with clothing. We're told not to stop them because we don't want to get charged or the companies don't want to get charged. So I think that behooves me to say to you, as part of the state, wake up, wake up. You're going to destroy Rutland with this nonsense. If you don't make people responsible for themselves, then you can't do the work to help the homeless. I mean, if anybody had come to me, I'd have been more than willing to sit down and talk to you and say, look, can't we try this and this? But, you know, you can be a social worker, but if you haven't worked with the masses of the homeless, you don't really have a clue. And I mean, I've learned over 40 years, you know, I treat them like I want to be treated. And I also want to be treated the same way. So, you know, like I said, our shelter is open. We still have beds, but they have rules. And when you don't want to go by the rules and you want to drink and you want to drug, go to the Cortina. So, and I put that onto the state. I don't put it onto the Cortina. They're making money at our expense and at the expense of the people of Rutland City, Rutland Town, and some of the good people that are staying down there. So that's my take.
Thank you, Sharon.
Matt,
A couple of technical policy things. So you mentioned the 80-day rule that's in the new legislation. And I just want to clarify something on that, if you can. You said they need to elect when to use that. Do they have to use that as a block, or can they parcel it out throughout the year? I mean, on July 1, do they have to decide, well, I'm staying now for the next 80 days, or can they stay for 30 days and then leave and then come back later, or how does that work?
Could I defer to Miranda on that just to make sure she gets it absolutely right? I don't want to misspeak.
Yes, happy to answer. So it is the second. People can choose to use their time in blocks. So if they wanted to use it for 20 days and then they were able to access, say, maybe a campground, they would be able to do that. And it's a rolling calendar year. So if people did choose to use their 80 days, if everything stays the same as it is in the budget right now, and they wouldn't be eligible again to outside of the winter months, we will be housing people. But in the warmer months, they wouldn't be eligible again until July 1st. because the days, I won't go into more detail, but that is, you're essentially choosing when you want to use your time in the warm months.
Well, and you just touched on my follow-up question, which is, it was my understanding that the winter did not count. So I don't remember how they defined winter in this legislation, but that's a lot of our year.
December 1st to April 1st is the way that it's written in the law right now.
So between that and the additional 80 days, I'm not going to do public math, but it covers quite a bit of your year, almost 3/4 of the year,
20,
probably.
5 months.
December, January, February,
So
March.
I guess that's an observation more than anything else. Well, I suppose the follow-up would be during the winter months. I mean, how is admission handled at that point? Just anyone shows up, they have to get a specific winter voucher. Is it night by night, or how does that?
So the eligibility requirements changed in this new law, and lists, I think, 11, we'd say vulnerable categories. So families with children, people with disabilities, people fleeing domestic violence, those who are pregnant. So 11 different categories. It does not include this. So there is a group of people who are left out, and, you know, for lack of a better term, able-bodied, people who don't fall into one of those other categories. So there is a difference in eligibility this year than there was in previous years. The cap will be, it's us looking across the state, seeing how many hotel rooms that we have. I know we're trying to look, even in the winter months, to make it proportional in Rutland to the population and to the need here. Mm-hmm. I know there's a belief often that all of these folks are coming from away, but I think everyone knows that's not entirely true. Some people might be from other parts of the country or the state, but there's a significant need right here in Rutland, and we have an obligation as a state to address that.
Do you know what the total number of rooms in the program is right now?
The number of units being used right now is about 1,450. Miranda, do you have any? Is that right?
Yeah, that is.
I think she's nodding, yeah.
So that's 1,450.
And about 400 in Rutland.
Right. And that's where you're getting towards late May, and you got 1,450. So if you got out 350 rooms to meet the new cap, it means, in theory, over time, people are cycling out of the program, and then you hit winter and the gates are sort of open, or I guess you're still subject to the 1,100 cap. How does that work?
There's no cap for the winter months.
So how would you find rooms at that point?
Based on room availability. I think we're still trying to figure that out with the new law that we just received. And I do want to say we're still going to be paying attention to Rutland not having a disproportionate number.
I mean, if we take the Cortina specifically, I mean, Mr. Kumar's got to figure out, how many rooms is he dedicating to this program, or is he dedicating his entire hotel to the program? I don't know that this can physically be done, but just theoretically, if he says, okay, I can only use half the hotel now, and I'm going to somehow get half of this back to a regular hotel, which obviously poses practical problems. But if you were to do that, and then you don't have those rooms available now for the winter. And so I don't know what the solution is now at that point.
What is your, sorry, Matt.
I have a different question. So if you have one on that.
Yeah, no, what is your proportional number for Rutland?
So we're looking at a lot of different things. We haven't settled on anything yet, and it includes conversations like this, but we're looking at the average rate of homelessness across the state, which is, I think, 51 people per 10,000. Am I saying that right, Miranda, Lily? I got it again. Well, yeah. I get lucky. I'm doing math in public now. About 51, the number of people experiencing homelessness that we have in Vermont, according to the, which count do we use for that, Lily?
This is a HUD generated number from work that's done as part of an annual point in time count. And then HUD generates a report that comes up with the 51 per 10,000 as a statewide rate.
So that's one way of looking at it. We're trying to use multiple data points. So 51 per 10,000. So you base that on population by county or by district. And we see that, that would mean significantly less than 400 households in Rutland. We're also looking at the percentages of uptake of economic services benefits. And we realize can be skewed by the number of people who are in the program here in Rutland. So we're trying to, massage those numbers and say, okay, it's a pretty high percentage in Rutland compared to other parts of the state. How do we take that into account? So looking county by county, region by region, those are a couple of the things that we're looking at to try to right size the program in the different areas of the state based on need and population.
So, I'm sorry, it's back to you because you had some follow-ups. Yes.
Well, along the same lines, if you subsequently are looking at, either hotel conversions or some other projects to create more shelter or transitional housing, would it be fair to assume, and based on your comments, that you would be looking for proportionality for those as well? That
Sure.
If you may do a 30 to 40 room unit, as you mentioned here, but not multiple of them in the city. Or
yes, that's all part of the calculation. In some parts of the state, they have more traditional shelter bed capacity. So we look at that as part of the overall formula for shelter for that region. So if something like the Loretta home were to move forward and we had, 50 beds available there, we would put that into the calculation of how many beds are needed, and we could reduce other areas like hotel rooms.
Because there are a lot of follow-on effects in addition to what, the town has experienced that's been mentioned in terms of the crime and so forth. I mean, that also spills over to the hospital, if they're providing free care to folks that come in, and that's not something that, we've covered under our agreement with the Cortina. That's something that they're just having to deal with, which obviously affects their budget formulas and push the costs off onto
That's right.
other places.
It's a different part of the human services budget.
Yeah. Bring some more folks to the.
Let me ask you this. Sure. With the money that you're pouring in per bed, per person at Cortina or wherever, would it behoove you, the people to begin with that are working but living at the Cortina, because to rent an apartment, you got to have, wouldn't it behoove you to, in fact, buy pieces of property, not warehouse everybody together, because that's where you get the problem, but buying up property and then having people earn the right to own that property you can get the modular homes, but not warehouse them with 15 or 20 of them, because that's where your problem.
I mean, yes, Sharon, I completely agree with that. And the challenge we have is a limited resource base.
But you're spending a ton.
Absolutely. And I think if we were able to draw a perfect plan, it would involve the shift of paid for hotel rooms to conversions, first to a form of supported shelter, onto a permanent supportive housing similar to the Woodstock Avenue property that the chair referred to, onto a longer term supported environment for individuals or independents. The challenge in building that system, as the commissioner has said, is we in Vermont just don't have the units even to begin moving people. And we look to converting other spaces. We look to moving, whether it's a long-term care
But if you're doing the
facility.
Loretta home, you're warehousing again.
Well, I think what the Loretta home plan, I'd let the commissioner speak to that, but I believe that the Loretta home plan is not, as you pointed out, that kind of social isolation in a room. It is much more of a staffed shelter where individuals through our Office of Economic Opportunity at DCF would be accountable for the rules of a shelter, would be accountable for the conditions of occupancy in that space, and ideally would be moving from there after a shortened period of time to a supported environment where they were essentially, because many of these folks have been unhoused, unsheltered for years, having the supports they need to learn how to live in community, like we hope most neighbors will. And so we recognize it's not as easy as flipping a switch and saying, you've been unsheltered for years. You've moved from an encampment to a hotel, back to somebody's couch, back to a hotel. Now here's your own apartment. That is a hard environment for people. And so we want to create that spectrum of care. And again, the challenge is we're also tasked with sheltering thousands of households at this point, and trying to do both in a limited budget environment is extremely challenging.
I think Joe had something, and then Matt.
I just, the numbers that you're describing, so about 400 rooms are available in the Rutland area. Is that a product of the need in the Rutland area or the availability of the rooms?
It's availability of the room. So we're
Okay.
talking about the need being smaller.
But
And so
we're moving people here from other areas because the rooms are available.
I think that did happen.
Yeah.
And maybe does still happen a little bit, but we're consciously trying not to do that.
Yeah.
And we know we need to reduce the
Then
number.
the other question I had was, is this area like the most concentrated number of rooms in, Rutland area? Say, is there as many rooms in the Burlington area or any other community? Or are we like top of the list for having many?
I'm sure there are more rooms in Burlington, but there may not be the same availability that.
Yeah,
there has.
what I'm saying is the number of rooms that are occupied by the homeless that are part of the voucher program. Is there any other community in the state that has this many rooms in the program in an area? Or are we like at the top?
I don't know what the Burlington numbers are, Miranda, if you could speak to that. Other than Burlington, though, you would be at.
I mean, that is, there's a much larger population in Burlington, but I
that's
don't
right.
know how that worked out.
Yeah, Rutland is at the top. We lost capacity in Burlington because of some of the motel conversions into permanent housing, which is great. But that is something throughout the pandemic that we did lose some capacity to be able to shelter people there.
So this is kind of a unique problem to us, having this many folks in this smaller community, trying to survive and their impact on other businesses and stuff is probably out of proportion to other areas.
Yep, I think that's fair to say.
That's okay.
We have to start building our budget for the next fiscal year this fall. And from what I'm hearing is there's not going to be a fix to this in the, by July 1st of 2025. So we should just plan on some housing at the Cortina continuing for at least another year or two. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement. There's no quick fix. There's no short-term solution. We will continue to advocate for more housing and more shelter beds and less reliance on hotels. And then we have that conversation with the legislature and we see what units are generated and what are available. And we're paying attention to drawing down in Rutland.
We have another unique thing, and that is, I think Rutland County has more elderly than other parts of the state, including some of us here. And if we're sheltering the homeless, there may not be room for elderly folks who need to move into assisted living.
We need more assisted living.
So I guess I'm concerned about the whole mix, and I hope you are looking at everything and talking with your colleagues and other state agencies so that programs that will pay grants and forgivable loans and loans to work on housing will be shifted to this area to help us out. And, part of the big picture, and not all your agency, but it should also be other agencies in state government who are helping us here in Rutland.
I mean, the challenge of sufficient long-term care facilities, assisted living facilities, it also sits with the Agency of Human Services and the Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living, and it is absolutely a main focus. The challenge is both the physical plant and the staff. And the staff in turn relies on housing units availability. And I think there are some creative solutions coming out of some developers and other folks looking to partner with Vermont State University at Castleton or other entities where in a perfect world, we would be encouraging those young people to set out on a path that we would help fund their education to move them into social work, allied health, teaching, law enforcement, corrections, et cetera, and providing them the places to work so that we retain our young Vermonters and we meet those workforce challenges. But of course, all of those pieces really do hinge on housing and having units. And that's
Well,
the
if you're
challenge.
talking housing and elderly, why would you turn the Loretta home, which was for the elderly, into regular housing? I would think priority would be to take care of those elderly first, because they're the weakest of the group. And I would also think that people that were able to work should have to go to work, or I'm sorry, it's a hand up. It's not a handout.
Matt's got something too, and then I want to see if our police chief has any thoughts to add, but I'll start with Matt.
Well, that was my point number two, but my point number one, Mary's question was a good segue. Obviously, there's not going to be an overnight solution. So in the meantime, I think what our community, and I suspect other communities need from the state is support from the state from all departments, not just from yours. So for example, our understanding is our health officer has been largely stripped of authority as a local health officer. So if he calls in something to the state and says there's an issue, we need that to be respected and addressed. Obviously, as Mary mentioned early on, we have an agreement with the Cortina that we've asked them to do a lot of things. And, I think we'll have an opportunity here to hear from Drew about where those things stand. And those are things that should improve quality of life for folks that are living at the Cortina. But from time to time, there are still issues like the sewer coming up through the pavement that, need to be addressed and not ignored because we need them to continue filling this role. We don't want to get the sense that the state is just sort of looking the other way because it's a necessity to have them. We want the place to be, safe and clean.
We just signed an order for $3,000 payment to A1 Sewer and Drain to deal with the issue of the effluent that was coming up through the pavement. So this is real stuff, and we see it every time we meet.
Our highway commissioner could fill you in on some really interesting commentary as to what was going on in the problems down there.
Chair, if I just one quick thing to Mr. Getty's point. So the Department of Health also sits under the Agency of Human Services, and we work very hard to ensure that there's close collaboration because we have a vested interest in ensuring folks who are our clients who are living in these hotels are living in habitable environments. So there is absolutely work both done, the Department of Health working with local health officers or otherwise, they have to carry out their job regardless of what the hotel, whether it's traveling public or the GA program is using it. So I would not say at any point there's a blind eye being turned. We certainly work hard to ensure as best we can with a fairly small staff that those environments remain habitable.
So unfortunately, our health officer is not
he
present, but I
doesn't.
think we've heard from him before that he's made calls and felt like he was not getting a
They
response.
basically told him that he didn't have the authority to move a person out of a room that had effluent and sewage on the floor in the room, that was overstepping his bounds as a health officer. I'm pretty sure that was what he told us.
I'm happy to follow. I'll give you my
And
card.
so to that point, this board will adopt ordinances that mirror what the state, I think that's our plan, to give him the authorization to be able to, because you can't have residents, it was almost suggested to us, well, maybe a year ago, that the board was unsympathetic to the homeless and that we were trying to get rid of them and we didn't want them. And it was numerous things. And I don't think anything can be further from the truth as to what this board's mission is. The care and well-being of those people is at the top. That's why all of those conditions are in that contract you have. And that's why our health officer goes down there, because if things aren't being done to the standard that they should be, then somebody has to be out there looking out for them. And things do happen. Facilities malfunction and you do have problems, but those things need to be fixed. And when you have sewage and stuff like that, that needs to be fixed yesterday. I mean, tomorrow isn't soon enough. And so any stumbling blocks that are in this board's way, we will find a way around them to make sure that we can find the authority to get things done. I think Drew's been on top of stuff when it's happened, and they try to do the best they can, but somebody has to be there watching out for these people. And we've kind of taken that through our health officer, our police department to do that. And I don't want this board to ever be accused of being unsympathetic, because that's the farthest thing from what we're doing here. We ask a lot of questions and we make a lot of noise, but we do have a plan.
So I'd like to hear from Chief Dumas, and then Drew's been very patient. So
since COVID hit in earlier part of 2020, our percentage of calls rose 5% down there, maybe more. I got all the stats. I don't have one at this point in time. We have a 3-man department. We have a 4-man department now. I could use 20 people if the town could afford them, and we could probably put a damper on a lot of stuff that's happened down in that area. Yeah. Let me say something good first. The homeless shelter program has been phenomenal for one individual I know in particular, and Brenda's been very good about helping this man with some, he's had some mental illness in his life, or his whole life. I knew his parents that came from down country. He decided to settle in Vermont probably 20 years ago and has lived in the woods literally this whole time. And he's staying at the Cortina now, which is, I think, amazing. I don't have to worry about it freezing up anymore. So thanks for that. That's a good thing. The other thing, maybe the lease program would be a good idea. I'll say this because Drew won't have to worry about trying to keep his hotel filled up and get paid if they have a lease program for a certain number of rooms. If he has a bad egg there that's causing problems for me and the town and our plaza down there, he can say, hit the road, get out. There's no accountability. Either way, first off, Drew loses money if he kicks him out. I get that. He needs to make money. Granted that they've made millions of dollars off you guys over the last 4 years. Millions of dollars. And what we got for it is not anywhere near what we should have, in my personal opinion. But if that lease program is there and there's a method or a way for me to speak to somebody, say, get rid of them, because I see people from Bennington, Burlington, Barry, they come to this location because they've been looking their history and the cases we deal with in our system, and they're nothing but problems wherever they go. So let's stick them on Rutland. So now I have to deal with them. And Ken, did I tell you, there's 3 of us on the road. We have 1 SRO. So we spend all our time dealing with that issue down there. The rest of the townspeople who are paying my salary and my officers, they get nothing from us. I have a constable, 2 constables that run radar, thank goodness for them, and handle dog complaints and things of that nature, or we wouldn't have any time to do that at all. I've had 5 burglaries today, and I spend all my time doing that, and probably they're from that area down there. So the lease program might be a way for some accountability. If there's somebody's a problem up north, then why isn't there some method other than the police keeping track of a person in our files they don't deserve to be ousted. That's, in my opinion. They're just using us, and they're problems. And wherever they go, they're a problem. They did have a place we used to keep them. It's called jail, but apparently we don't want to put them there anymore because we can't do that anymore because they changed the Vermont Constitution. I'm not real happy about it. I'm an old officer, so I like the way things were. The new way is, I guess, the progressive way, but it's not working out the way I think it should at this point in time. So anything you can do to help us, we greatly appreciate.
you will see that the monthly payments that are made by the Cortina to the town primarily go to pay overtime for our police department. And occasionally, and for our constables who are also special officers of our police department. So that's primarily what we use the money for, the extra policing down there. And let me add that Rutland Town is a generator of sales tax for the state. I mean, we have a hefty commercial area down there. But if people are reluctant to shop there, that's going to hurt everybody. That will hurt the town, but it will also hurt the state. So, Mr. Kumar, thank you for being patient and thank you for coming in. We'd like to hear your comments too. You can come on up here. Yeah.
Sharon, Matt, Mary, Joe, Kurt, Officer Dumas, and the rest of everyone here. My name is Drew Kumar. I'm one of the owners at the Cortina Inn. Just a few things that I heard. One of them was regarding the sewage. That was of no fault of ours. Yes, there was excessive sewage coming out of the manhole, but from the way that the piping was laid out, the sewage blockage was actually towards Taco Bell. Wind River was the company that we hired to remove the sewage because A1 Sewage literally didn't want to be on the phone with us. They just said that we'll take our time. And we've been using Wind River for several years, even before I was here. I only got here in July, and there's a gentleman named Bruce. He also told me that I already know exactly what the issue is. So it started on the 26th, I believe, on like 8 o'clock. It just started overflowing, which I've never seen. So that issue was resolved because there was like this much grease in one of the manholes, and that was towards Taco Bell because we don't have operating restaurants. We have no oil.
Right.
That's not to say that there's not other stuff going into the sewage, but that was the reason why there was water and sewage coming out and going into the culvert.
Okay.
That was that issue.
Could we get a copy of that report?
Yes.
Great. Thank
And
you.
I believe David Sears,
Yes.
he was the first one there on the site, and he told us to take care of it immediately. So I did call Wind River. We called him that night, the night before, because there was an ongoing issue. Because once we saw that happening, we called him immediately. But he didn't have the right equipment, and I think it was like 1 a.m. when this happened. So he brought the equipment, and then he said he would be here later in the afternoon. So all we were trying to do is just trying to clean that area, and all that water was still going into the culvert. So once he got the blockage removed, the drain immediately went down. But I will get you that report.
Great. Thank you.
One of the main questions I have is I only got here in July of 2023, but late June. Has there been a reduction or an increase in the number of police calls since I've gotten here? Because I'm just trying to see if we're in the right direction or if it's more or less the same.
Increase.
There's been an increase?
Yes.
How much of an increase?
I'll get you the stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there something that specifically we should be doing other than what we've been doing already regarding handling certain people? Because we have been removing bad elements from the hotel on occasion because we know that there are certain people that, like you said, shouldn't be housed, which I completely agree with. We've given them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and we do remove them. We don't keep them. We don't want them, and like I said, they do bring a lot of negative attention to the Cortina, and that's something we're trying to avoid completely.
I think that would be, and I know you've got good cooperation between the police department and the Cortina. So, but to follow up on specifics, is there any conditions that the state has that make it difficult for you to oust someone who is at the Cortina who presents a problem?
So one of the restrictions that we do have, if we do remove someone before the voucher ends, we have to file an eviction notice, which we've done on plenty of occasions.
Mm-hmm.
We do get a phone call from economic services saying we have nowhere to put them. And I'm like, that's not my problem. I mean, we've given them ample opportunities for them to change their attitude, change their behavior. I would love not to involve Rutland Town Police in every affair, but it gets to the point where if I have to call them myself, I will call them. But if the state can try to help us remove certain people, I know that there's a 30-day window where they're not eligible to receive an additional voucher if they get evicted. But what we've been trying to do is we've been just trying to, if they're close to their checkout date, we don't renew them. We just say that, hey, look, we're not going to renew you, and you'll be placed at a different hotel. That's not solving the problem, but that at least gives us the opportunity to deal with the other issues at hand, and just give that issue. Hey, we tell the state as well, this person has been an issue. He's been doing A, B, or C, and we try to deal it that way.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Did you get any information from the state on when you asked a house person anything about their background, what happened?
All we get when we get a phone call from economic services, they just tell us how many people are in the household and if they have any pets. And that's pretty much it. And we get a name. So there's no, because like they have some children, we'll know exactly which room we can put them in, because we don't know exactly how many people are showing up. If it's 2 adults and a pet, or 3 children, or if there's more than 4 people, then they usually get 2 rooms and they have to be adjoining. So that's the only information we do get.
You don't get any information that they were a problem wherever they were fired. No. To come to you. Is that something the state?
We do have a DNR list, so we do reference that before we accept the voucher. So if that name does pop up on our DNR list and we've had an experience, or another hotel has had an experience in the past.
Do not rent.
Do not rent. Yes, sorry. Do not rent.
There's another connotation there.
The do not rent list. And if we see them on our list, we don't take the voucher.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, would it be okay if Miranda, the Deputy Commissioner Gray, spoke a little bit to when people are moved and what we call POI, period of ineligibility, when that's enacted? It's not like we're just constantly shuffling people. People do get
right. But I do want to make sure that we hear Mr. Kumar's remarks. Would you rather hear that first, or
she can
Okay.
go ahead. That's not an issue.
Thank you. Yes, so we do have behaviors that do warrant people to have a period of ineligibility. And so that is 30 days where we're saying we're not going to house them anymore. And that is if they're putting people in danger. We are pretty reliant on our motel partners to let us know when there is a behavior that is unsafe. So that is what we rely on. We cannot share with motels people's backgrounds. Really, we're just looking for a room for this individual or family, and understanding that people have their own requirements when we work. We also place people into shelters, and there are requirements that people go through to determine who's a good fit for their establishment or not. It's just that I would add that as well.
Back to you. Can I ask a couple of questions
Yes,
on the indoor, outdoor play places for the kids? Have you got those set up?
We have a trampoline. We have some slides. I've ordered a couple basketball hoops for the back.
Mm-hmm.
We moved all the cars that were parked in the back towards the front. That way, that back area is specifically just for children, especially when the weather gets warmer.
Okay.
It'll be a lot nicer for them to have at least an area where they can play. And we have camera coverage, so we know exactly what's going on.
Okay. And the security on the back doors and the alarm system?
It's a work in progress. We've replaced 2 or 3 doors already, and I have an order I replaced last 2-3 weeks ago. We're getting other fire rated doors. So it is a work in progress.
Okay. Criminal background checks for your staff, and nobody on the sex offender registry on your staff?
Yes. So everyone that is, everyone has a valid work permit that was issued by the state. So everyone that does have one is okay at the moment. We did verify with everyone.
Okay. For both?
For both, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I have a question here because I have a lot of contact with the homeless, and I have to disagree with you. There have been people down there that shouldn't be around children
I completely
if
agree
they're
with that.
allowed.
Well, the thing is, we don't have the employees,
Well, if the
yes.
state is allowing
don't
that,
have
then
any-
shame on the state. I don't care what you say. Children are vulnerable. We owe them better than that.
Absolutely.
And
But
if
we don't
people
know
are
certain
going
people.
after children, they can sleep outdoors as far as I'm
Absolutely.
concerned.
We don't get any information regarding who is staying there and what their background is, but we do check any of our employees. So that is one thing that we do, but we have no idea of verifying where a certain individual or a certain person has come from or what their specific background is. And there's no way to check for it either, unless we do a valid background on pretty much everyone at the hotel.
Okay. So you had other things that you wanted to comment on as you were going through?
I mean, I was just pretty much listening to this conversation. It was more trying to understand what we can do as a hotel to alleviate issues that Rutland Town is facing, and also the economic services and DCF, what we can do to help with that as well. So I think this agreement that we have in place is a stepping stone that we can use to kind of help with that. But like you said, we don't have a plan in place regarding how we're going to be able to move people into more affordable housing and permanent housing. So if that's something that we can help with, we'll definitely help with. We know we work with Brock and homeless prevention. That is one of the requirements to get a voucher. So as long as every person and the voucher program is working with an affiliate program, especially in their location, I believe Rutland, that there's only two. It's Brock Action and homeless prevention. That's a stepping stone for them to help find housing. So that's one of the things they have to do.
I remember speaking with some of the folks down there when we were there for the site visit, and many of them said, yes, we're waiting to hear, and they had signed up with the housing group, so they were waiting.
And then certain people have actually been able to find housing, which is a blessing, and they have been moving on, and they found a place, and now they have their own place to call their own, which is the overall goal at the end of the day.
And you're anticipating, it sounds like, based upon the letter of intent, that there will be housing of the homeless at the Cortina for probably another year or two?
I can't speak in the longevity, but I can say for at least till the end of the year, because I know with the winter not coming up, we're in July. We're in the summer, sorry.
Don't rush it.
Until we have something in writing or some form of action that we can also talk to the state about and talk to you guys about, we don't have an idea when this is gonna change. But I think it's a fair assessment to say maybe 1 to 2 years.
All right. Any other select board questions? I think our chief has said his bit. Any follow-up from the state folks? Okay. Well, this has been a good session. I guess 2 final questions. When do we hear from you again? And can we do anything? How do you want us to be in touch with you, and so that we know where this is headed and what we can do?
Thank you. I just want to say thanks again for the opportunity to actually have a face-to-face conversation. We thought it was important that we be here. Adam is our eyes and ears on the ground here in person. So if you do need further contact in the state, Adam's a good place to start. We are looking at how we're going to reduce numbers in Rutland. And so you'll be hearing from us in the next month, 2 months. July 1st is when the new rules and eligibility goes into effect. September 15th is when we're supposed to reduce to 1,100 rooms, but you'll be hearing from us before then. I think meanwhile, if there are any opportunities for traditional shelter space that you have that come across your desks and something that comes to mind, we're happy to run those down, explore them, see if we can support them. Because as we've been saying, we'd much rather use traditional supported shelter options than hotels and motels. I do want to, it's been a good solution for the time being, but it needs to be something different, and we need to start working towards something much different than what we've been doing the last 4 years, as you've all pointed out tonight. And, we're happy to come back. If you'd like to have us back, either in person or virtually. If you have any questions, you could contact any of us.
Okay. Well, we do appreciate the time you've taken to come in and speak to us, and Mr. Kumar as well. Thank you for coming in.
And I'll leave my contact information. I would love to hear more about the local health officer's experience.
Yes. Okay, great. I'm sure he'd be willing to share it. We also have on our chair of our planning commission, who is also a member of the Rutland Regional Planning Commission staff. So they've been very involved in housing issues. So you know, that's Barbara Noyes Pulling. So we're connected there as well. All right. Thank you all. Safe travels home, folks.
Thanks.
I just had something to ask you regarding the sewage. It wasn't something that they discussed. I'm definitely giving the report.
Okay, thanks.
They said Wind River said they spoke to someone from the Rutland office regarding that, and they
Here?
said they were going to take care of it. The bill.
So they could have spoken to Dave Sears.
Okay.
So we'll check with him. Yeah.
And then we took care of that issue immediately, and everything was done
Okay.
regarding that.
Thank you. All right. Have a good evening. Okay, so we have done A and B.
Motion to adjourn is not in order yet.
No, you can't
Oh, I
move
can't
to
go home.
adjourn
Well,
just yet.
Well, we
Well, you could, but I think we'd have
Don't say
department
can't,
heads that were
Terry.
somewhat
Would
disappointed.
be appropriate.
So let's start with our order. We'll hear first from Marcia Chioffi, Town Head Lister. Good evening, Marcia.
Good evening, Mary. The only thing I have on my agenda this meeting is the extension of the lodging of the grand list. We're still waiting
Right.
for state agencies to send us information. Barely tonight, I got the veterans exemption. But we are also waiting to hear from other agencies.
Okay, so that should be in our packet.
Yes.
Letter E, Joe advises. So this is a grand list extension request. We have done these before for similar reasons. And it looks like you're requesting a 30-day extension that will still have things done before July 1st. So I will entertain a motion to approve the extension request, and if you folks would be so kind to have me or someone sign, as
Says chair.
it does say chair. Okay.
Cannot, so moved.
Motion's made
Sorry.
and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the extension, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are you, I'm sorry, Sharon, I couldn't see you. You okay with that? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Matt's too big. He hides me.
Well, you know. Okay, so that's in the folder, Marcia. It's all taken care of.
Thank you.
So we also have received on our desk a letter from John E. McCamley, tendering his resignation as lister. With great thanks, Marcia, to you and Marie as co-workers and all you've done in there. But Jack is basically juggling quite a bit, and he has decided that he can't take on his chores as lister along with all of the other things. So it is with real dismay that we receive his letter of resignation. I didn't look up the statute, so I don't know, but you had a word or two for us long range, Marcia, on what we should do with the lister position.
Well, I do have the statutes online. I looked them up in anticipation of this, and it is Title 17, which is the elections. And what it reads is lack of elected lister, appointment of lister, elimination of office, hiring assessors. The only thing I highlighted here is the select board may appoint an assessor to perform the duties of a lister set forth in Title 32 until the next annual meeting. Well, I don't think that we are going to appoint an assessor at this time. Right now, Marie and I are embroiled in a lot of things, namely the VTPI, NIMRIC, CAMA, all the components of the grand list that we're having to deal with and coming together. We've been out doing many site visits, and we still have two major site visits that we have to do, namely Starbucks and Splash Holdings. So at this point, I can't see where bringing someone in new at this point is going to be beneficial to our department.
Okay.
If we appointed somebody,
Yeah, Joe's,
if we appointed somebody like we did last year, prior to the special election, then they would be only appointed till that special election again. So even if we appoint somebody, we should wait till we get past these special,
well, there's these special elections, then there's the August primary,
Right,
then
and
there's the
then-
November general election, and then,
and I do believe
there-
the statute says that the next
Yeah.
election, right?
well,
They
the,
would have to run.
We
can't
would have
remember
to go.
because
We
it's
would have to
different
go
with
until the
historical.
annual meeting, which would be
Okay.
next March.
Yeah, but see, that's not what we did last spring, Marcia. If you remember, we appointed Marie to fill a vacancy. And then we had to have the special election for the public safety building. And because there was an election, she had to run for that position. That's the way it turned out. So she was only appointed for like 2 months. So anyway,
we'll check the statute. I keep getting it mixed up with what we have to do for select board members.
right,
when
but
there's a
I was pretty sure
resignation.
that's what happened because we did it for the two positions. Actually, it was
Okay.
the lister position and the tax collector position.
Okay.
So we
All
might
right.
want to,
So, yep, Matt?
So Marcia, just to clarify, is it your recommendation to the board that we not appoint anybody and that you and Marie can handle things until the next town meeting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Marie has been a very quick source of learning. The two of us have gone out and we have assessed 6 new builds. We've also assessed outbuildings, garages, decks, and so forth. And the only 2 large that we have to do now is the Starbucks and Splash Holdings. I've been in touch with the Burlington assessor because Splash Holdings, excuse me, has built a Echo Vermont car wash up in Burlington. So I'm hoping to get information from him so that we may assess our building, which actually will only be assessing as of April 1st of this year.
Okay, well, any follow-up, Matt?
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Marcia, and thank you for that recommendation, and we'll take a look so I have the statutes in my mind too. Okay. All right. Anything else for Marcia Chioffi, our head lister? Nope.
No.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you very much, Marcia.
Thank you, Mary.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, board.
All right, Chris Clerk, Town Fire Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Not much going on in the fire department this last month. Been very quiet, knock on wood. We are going to participate in a couple parades on Monday for Memorial Day. One in West Rutland, one in Pittsford. Other than that, I have nothing to tell you unless you have a question.
No, it's just that, I think I need to call a meeting of the fire committee just because we're coming close to the end of the year. I did send out a memo to, all department heads asking them to kind of take a look at their expenses and to the extent they have income in their department, and make sure we were on track. I took a quick look at yours and fire seems pretty much on track, I think so. But still, it would be other committees have met and I should have a meeting of the fire committee. So
yeah,
try and set that
something
up for you.
I got something to bring up
Yep.
too in a committee meeting. So if we could have one, that would be good.
Okay, you're usually available, what, after 3:30 or so?
Yeah, 3:30 or 4. After 4 is
Okay.
best, really. 4 o'clock,
Okay.
4:15.
Okay.
6 a.m.
Do I hear 4:30?
I can
All
be
right,
there
gotcha.
4:30.
All right. Any questions for our fire chief?
I hope you didn't jinx yourself, Christopher.
No, it's only
Well-
when I say things like that I
Yeah.
jinx the department. Yeah.
I said
That's
knock
me.
on wood so Mary wouldn't talk. So
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief.
thanks.
Kari Clark, Town Clerk and Treasurer. Good evening.
Okay. Okay. Couple things on the list tonight. Let's see. The office is going to be closed from Thursday of this week until Monday of next week, given that Monday is Memorial Day. It will reopen on Tuesday at 8:30. That is posted on notices around town hall, and I noticed it's on Facebook. I would like it on the website, like on the homepage. I know it's on the calendar. I think it should be on the homepage. I could just.
Could we do like a banner notice just until it's, yeah, thank you. Is this going to be 8:30 now from your opening hour?
No, I'm taking some days off and Susan is going to be coming in on Tuesday at 8:30.
Okay. Gotcha.
So next, actually, let's go to, the third installment of taxes. I can at this point say that it's an average amount that is unpaid. We don't have the exact number because we're still processing. Some late payments, some we're still kind of working all the numbers, but it looks like every year we give the delinquent tax collector around 250, between 250 and 300 delinquent taxes for the fiscal year that have not been collected. And right at this point, that looks like what will be handed over to him. If he's listening, that's not an exact figure, so we'll have the exact figure. My plan is to give him the warrant on the 29th when I'm here. It usually goes to him on the 25th, but that falls on a Saturday and it falls within the time that I'm going to take some time off. So I'll give that to him on the 29th.
Thank you, taxpayers, for making your payments. We appreciate it.
Mhm.
Except the
So-
ones that didn't.
Right, right.
You'll notice in the orders that the school gets their third installment from the taxes. So that is the adjusted figure from Lewis for the year. The packet has his calculations and my calculations in it. And so speaking of the school, we have another vote coming up for the school budget. This will be the second vote for the attempt for the budget, and that will be on the 30th, which is next week, on Thursday. So,
did you get
this
the
is-
materials in time?
So we'll have a little bit of a kind of like a period of this is what I know. So, it's short notice. So the warning was just given to me. I spoke with Christine McGinnis from the school central office. Their practice is to put the warning in the Herald once. So they're putting it on in Thursday. I reached out to the Herald and I asked them for additional days. My worry, and I think it's public that my worry is it's such short notice and we aren't going to get the word out to everyone that we're having this vote. So I asked the Herald to put it in 3 extra times. It'll be in on a Saturday and 2 times next week. I also asked to make it larger because I remember some people were having a hard time reading the number last time they get the Herald. So it's going to be in person. The polling places will be open our regular times from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the school and here. The ballots are not getting mailed out. You will have the opportunity, now that I have the warning, to ask me for absentee ballots. What I do know is I have a handful, more than a handful, about 70 people that requested an absentee ballot for all elections throughout the calendar year, and that includes any special elections like this. We just printed the ballots out today, and we'll be working on getting those out in the mail tomorrow. It's tight. I mean, it is tight. My suggestion, if you're listening to this, is number one, either try your hardest to come in person if you really want to be heard on Thursday, the 30th, or if you are able to get out, and here again, I worry about those people that can't get out. If you're able to get out and you know that the mail is going to be slow and it's going to be slow getting to you and back to us, you can come into my office and vote in person on the days that we're there. And that is also limited. So it's a little bit of a stretch this time. I do know that some people from the school board are going out and going door to door, explaining what's happening. This is what I've heard. I've also seen them at the transfer station handing out posters of information. The only thing that I want to say to that, and I'm not taking any sides at all, I just want the information to be out there. This that you're getting is solely educational information, meaning examples, anything on here, it deals with just the education rates and education numbers. Be very, very, very careful to understand that this is not your full taxes. The examples are just education. We are part of that, and our numbers are not figured into this.
Right. The town budgets are all passed.
Correct.
And we will set the tax rate after July 1st.
Absolutely.
So this is just the education portion of the tax.
And I just caution those people that are relying on this to just know that that's part of it. Good information, just it's part of it. It's not the whole thing.
Can I ask a question on the voting? For if people come into the office, is that something that Susan can handle if you're not here?
So basically it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Wednesday they can come in.
Yeah, for next week, because then Thursday they can.
Carrie,
just
when
go
are the ballots available? Are they available now?
We printed some today, so
Oh.
they can technically come in tomorrow if they wanted to, if they hear this.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they know. I don't think this will be out there for tomorrow, but anybody calling, we always offer that they're available. I do want to put a tiny little bit of information out there that I think primarily the swift timing of this is due to having enough time at the other end if we need to have another vote. I also caution people hearing otherwise to try to get the correct information. Happen to hear some other things and it's not true. I think the planning is just part of it.
I think the lack of a budget on July 1 will make your job a lot more complicated. So more shots at this, probably the better if they're necessary.
Yeah. So that's what I know about this election. If you have any questions, ask us. We'll try to answer them. But I do want to say, if you have questions about the school budget, ask the people that are on this poster, because this is their stuff. I can answer about the actual day and what that's going to look like, but that's about it. So let's see, taxes, election, office. I know that there are a few items on the action needed that are directly impacted by me and information. So I don't know if you want to do that while I'm up here.
We have, well, first, let me take the easy one, which is a liquor license request. Did you see that?
I did, and I printed it off.
Okay.
It's only for, it's not even called a catering. It's something I've never seen come through.
It's a one-time event. It is a request from Bricks and Colin Faignant, who owns Bricks, and it is for the Spartan Arena for one day, which is May 31st. And it is it's kind of a catering request. Yeah, an outside catering request. Full disclosure, it is for the Rutland South Rotary Club's annual raffle. I'm a member of that Rotary Club. Matt's a member. Sharon used to be a member. It is to raise,
has been.
it is to raise money for charitable giving, including a lot of grants in the area. So it isn't to our personal benefit. So with that disclosure made, is there any motion on the liquor license request?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Tickets
Not sure.
are still available.
But not many. I sold another one today. All right, I'm going to sign on the second page and pass this around. Okay. All right, that takes care of liquor license. Got that one. All right. The Personnel Committee met with Kari to hear her request. It was kind of a joint Personnel Finance Committee, but this portion was for personnel. It was to hear Kari's request as town clerk and treasurer for a pay, well, it's a pay request. So Matt and I were there. Do you want to state your position on this? We could take it in an executive session. We could take it, and that's kind of up to the board to decide.
Us and her, whether sometimes these things are done in private, but it's up to you and the rest of the world, but
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that one first or the other things. I had about 5 of those
Okay.
items circled that directly deal with me. That
Okay, so
being a longer item.
Okay, so J is board to discuss special election for the school budget. You've pretty much covered
I
that,
pretty
right?
much covered it.
Okay.
that one's done.
Just a note that the Board of Civil Authority did meet, and we've got ballot clerks and ballot counters, including Matt and I think Sharon is backup if you run short.
She did. Yes,
Great.
absolutely.
Okay. The town finances through April 30th, 2024. Kari has included in our packet the financial numbers. I sent out an email to all department heads asking them to check in, see how your expenses are going and how, if income is relevant, how the income side of things are going as well. So I'm hoping that as department heads check in, they will let us know those things. And that was my intent to kind of, and Kari's suggestion was to look to the department heads. But with that said, you have received the printout from Kari. So if you, it's part of your packet. So if you have any questions that come to mind as we've got less than a month to go, are there any matters that you've noticed that you have questions for Kari about? Matt does. Okay.
So I struggle a little bit following these just because of the way that taxes kind of go through these reports. And so I guess I'm wondering if you have a sense of where things stand, particularly with respect to the general fund, where we typically have a surplus, I believe, that offsets our other budgets. So you have a read on where we are?
Honestly, I think the general fund is okay. There's so we have not allocated the third installment of taxes in these reports yet. These were done before our orders today. So that's going to give each department more money to work with in the end. I hesitate to talk about each department because again, I'm not within each of their items. I don't know what they're doing as far as what their plans are and how they've spent their money and why they've spent their money. For the most part, anytime that I have to write out a check or anything that is out of the ordinary, I go to the meeting minutes and usually it's there and I have that as proof. But having said that, I know you're asking about the general. I think the general is doing okay. We're going to, I honestly don't know because each department is kind of over, except for, I'm going to say rec is doing okay. Fire's doing okay. Highway has their over
agenda.
Well, no, they have their
carryover.
carryover.
Got the carryover. So
Right. And then, well, then we have the police department.
Which relates to another thing on here,
but that's the Cortina money and that I have all figured out too. So it doesn't look as bad as one would think.
That was my hope. But some of the departments I haven't, I kind of looked at the ones that I'm on committees for. And those are a little bit easier to suss out just by looking at the total expense lines. But then, each one has its own special issues.
Right.
So.
What I have seen in the overall common denominator in each one is the lines that you would expect that are going over because of inflation are going over because of inflation. And it's not just in one department, it's across the board. So we've got phone lines are the communication lines are over, fuel is over. For some reason, we might have calculated Social Security a little wrong for some reason, and that's going over. And then, of course, this isn't this year, but we're looking toward the healthcare going sky high. All of that and all of that.
On the social security thing, is that a significant number or?
Going over, or is it, I think we just did calculations a little off, or we're adding more, we're probably, we're adding more hours for some people, and that's kind of making some lines go over too, because you're taking social security out of any employee that's working. So.
Yeah, so like the police department, if they're working overtime, that's, I mean, so we're not talking about a major thing. We're talking a little here and there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless anybody has a
Well, that would
question
be a thing, Kari, like if you're paying, well, when you get into the social security, there's a number for the regular pay, but then if you start figuring the Cortina, do you go back and take, that special patrol?
Whole different ball of wax.
Right. So while they're getting paid, but you still got to take the other stuff out. And does that come out of the regular budget, or you try to take that? Or are you still banging your head on the wall?
No. I took all of Friday, and for anybody trying to call in on Friday, sorry that I didn't answer the phone, but it took quite some time actually to figure out the Cortina money against the police. Spent a good portion of that. So without getting into tedious what I do to get that, first of all, I don't know if you want to go into that line.
Well, that is H. So the Cortina settlement fund is here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So basically we have money coming in from the Cortina, right, that I keep track of. And then any time that the police officers are doing their special detail down south, they have a separate timesheet that they keep track of, that we then have a separate line when we do payroll. So I have money coming in. I have money going out to those officers. There are certain expenses that were allocated with that money that the select board approved. So we have to take that into account, those actual numbers. I know that the Tahoe and anything in the Tahoe were full Cortina money. So we take that into account. So the money in, then the money out for those two expenses, payroll and the actual Tahoe money. For the fiscal year, we're left with, and this is not final, so I still have more to say, $140,576. But we as a board discussed in December that we take how much time they spent down there, and a percentage of that, whatever that percentage is, we came up with, I believe we had 3 scenarios with the officers. If it's just, let's see, if it's all of the percentage of all the PD working together, or if it's just the 3 main officers that go down there, or the 3 main officers plus the constables. And when you discussed this in December, you decided to go with the higher percentage, which would be the 3 main officers and the constables. Mm-hmm. So we then have to go and find all of their time and put it into the spreadsheet. And I did this from July 1st until right up until now. May 4th, I think, was the last time we did a payroll. And then how much time they've been working total, like their total amount of police officers, no matter what they were doing, police officer hours, no matter what they were doing. This time, and I have all the backup here, it comes to about 17.25% as an average, the highest in that category that you asked me to use, the 3 main and the constables. So that's 17.25. I then go to their expenditures for what is on your sheet, which is to date, their expenditures are $645,714. And we, according to what we've discussed with Andrew before, we do not include SRO, so we take that out. We take the line here of overtime out because we're already putting it in another place. We don't want to double dip. And then in this equation, I took out all the vehicle expenses because we already took that into account up here.
Mhm.
We come to, if we subtract those amounts out of that expenditure amount, we come to 461,561. And then we take the percentage of time, because this is what Andrew suggested, the 17 and a quarter, and apply it to all of the remaining expenses. So we take 17 and a quarter against 461. That's another $79,619 that we have to take an account out of what we had as a remaining balance for the number that I told you.
Okay.
When we subtract that out, we have a balance for this fiscal year of $60,957.10 until June 30th.
Okay.
That's in the Cortina fund, right? Now,
Cortina,
they're paying monthly into that, right?
correct. And they are up to date on that. And we have not yet received the one for June.
So there'll be an additional
Correct.
20,000+.
Correct.
So the total, can we, looking at it another way, what would be the total of Cortina funds that would be applied so far into this budget? Does that make sense? For the expense, well, we know what the expense allocation was. You just gave us that, but then what was the
How much
the
did
other
we get
figures
in?
that we know what we were, so the $140,000 number you gave us was the balance prior to the expense allocation, but that was also net of overtime and the vehicle, right?
So we've got, right. So the total, if you want the numbers, the total revenue is 264,620 for this fiscal year from July 1st until now.
That's what they've
given us.
Okay.
Then you less out the payroll, which from this fiscal year is $61,252.50.
200 and, I'm sorry.
261. Sorry.
No, payroll is $61,252.50. And the vehicle expenses, that's buying the Tahoe and outfitting it, that was solely approved by the select board, is $62,791.05. Net those all together, you get $145.76.
Okay. So the Tahoe expenditure won't be repeated.
No, we did not repeat that.
So it is basically for the payroll is 61,252 for 11 months.
It's July. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Almost.
We have two more select boards
About
until
10,
the
10
end
and a
of the
third,
time.
10 and a half.
Okay.
Because you got one, this pay period wasn't
Yep,
there.
that's not in here, and then two more.
And then two more, so there's
And
6.
you and Andrew are okay. I mean, the 17.25% is basically the overhead of running the whole support in the department to support the officers who are out there. I mean, that's how I thought of it anyway. Yeah.
That's the above and
And
beyond.
you folks are okay with that percentage, seeing it now applied?
I'm okay with doing all of this. That was your decisions that you guys have made and what you wanted for that money. So,
okay. And you see, oh, go ahead, Matt.
Well, no, you go first.
Is there any is this okay, or is there any warning flag that you see coming up?
I don't see Ed using that much money in payroll each month.
Okay.
You're not going to spend $60,000 in 4 weeks
Not when you spend.
in payroll. No.
When you spend 60,000 in 10 months.
Right.
So here's the real question. I'm going to ask Joe's question before he does.
Okay.
So the way I understand it, working this back the other way, is we got about 79,000 on the expense allocation plus 61 in payroll plus 62 for the vehicle. That all comes to $203,000 and change. Police budget right now is not over budget on expense by that much. So if we do make an accounting adjustment that adds that much money into sort of the police budget, then you'd have a surplus, which has potential
do that.
knock-on effects.
Because that would be applying Cortina money to. Gotcha. Okay.
In the past, if the regular police budget was overspent, then we took it out of the general, which was basically the 1% additional if we had any excess. That covered any overtures in the regular budget. And you're trying very desperately to keep the Cortina money separate from the regular money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as long as, so when Ed's operating budget, the 400 or 5, whatever we budgeted for this fiscal year, if that goes into the red, the accountability from that, or the reckoning, comes from the 1% money. That's always been the way it is. So if we have more 1% money, this is what kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. Like last year, I think we had 350,000 or whatever, some number, but I believe the police budget was over some.
Right.
So we took some out of that 1% to cover that additional cost. And that's always been the way it is, because the police budget is so volatile that it's hard to.
But the
nail that
issue
down.
we're going
That's
to
how the
have,
calculations go
It's
for
really,
the
yeah,
tax rate.
their budget is almost like a best guess estimate, because you don't know how much crime you're going to have. You don't know how much work you're going to have.
Mhm.
And so there's even some regular stuff that isn't Cortina stuff, right, Ed? Yeah. So that's why I think when that 1% money was set up, it was done that way intentionally.
so my question then is,
Yeah.
what do we do with accounting for the Cortina funds? And did we do, I mean, because we have a whole separate discussion of if and when we hire another officer, which was something
We had
that-
allocated 58 or 60,000 toward the hiring of another officer out of the Cortina money, but we didn't
more
do
than
that.
that.
Huh? I believe we did.
I think it was more than that for next
Well,
year.
it might have been more, but at least that amount.
So-
And then Ed wasn't able to find somebody, so we haven't theoretically spent that money.
Correct. The balance is what the balance is.
Right.
But I guess the question I'm raising is what happens if adding the Cortina money into the police budget puts the police budget in the black? Because
I don't think we do.
Can we
But I
reserve that? Those
I think in the
funds
audit,
instead?
he keeps it separate.
Yeah, I don't think you
This is
have to
gonna be
keep it
the-
separate. You can't add it into the
Mm-mm.
budget. So the direct patrol expenditures in that 17% is like the overhead. So you have a direct patrol amount, whatever numbers those amount to, and then you figure another 17% for whatever the
On
overhead,
each of the-
and that's
Mhm.
taken out of the Cortina money also. And that's what helps that's what.
I understand.
So
That's,
all
those
that,
are the numbers that I was adding together.
right, so we're
200.
trying to keep, we have to keep the Cortina's money and that direct patrol separate from the other budget. So a lot of the police department's calls are to the south end of town, but they're within the regular budget and the regular hours. And then the additional direct patrol is the extra expense. And I don't think, they don't overlap. So we wouldn't be putting any money from Cortina into their their regular budget. That wouldn't be appropriate.
No, but that's what we're doing because we're paying 17.25% of their overhead, which is already budgeted.
We're saying that
Well,
they're
but there is an
spending a
additional-
certain amount of time on the south end, which would be in this case for this time period, 17.25%. And the certain lines that are directly affected by that are the lines that we are applying this percentage to. It's just a portion of it. Because you can't, there's no other way to say, well, we use this amount of paper on this report, and they can't nitpick.
Yeah.
So it's just a general way, an easier way to kind of make it fair in a way. I don't think you're taking into account the SRO on your figures. We do not, we don't include her in our, because she does her own thing. She's not affected by this. She doesn't.
I know. All I did was add the things, the payroll that you figure that you mentioned, the vehicle expense and the expense allocation.
Right.
So I guess my question, and maybe it's an Andrew question, but is how we
of the direct
how does this get reported? I mean, in a sense, what we're saying is,
like the operating or the
we spent this money. We now have
Social
less
Security,
fund
Beamers, and all of that stuff.
to
I think
use. It doesn't really affect the police.
And it all,
I guess what we're saying is the
because
police
you're
budget
paying that
itself will be
to each individual, you can't have
overspent
separate.
because of these things
Payroll
that we're
amounts.
pay for.
I don't know how the hell that
don't
works.
show up in
So
here.
we'll offset it a little bit by the Cortina
It's a
money,
complicated system.
right?
But what does that mean? I guess is my issue is offset.
Are you concerned if we have a surplus?
Yeah, are we inadvertently funding the capital improvements line at the end of the day because we apply more of this money than we actually need?
Okay.
Correct.
So
That's
that's the question.
That's the big question. We should only be funding we should only be transferring over what our overage is in the budget from the Cortina.
And I think he takes into account that this is the second year that we're doing this. The first year was extremely fuzzy. If you remember,
Yeah.
it was December when we finally came to a conclusion with this. So this will be the actual clear year where the report in the town report is reflective of some clear numbers, and he will not mix them because they are restricted funds, as he puts it.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, should the amount that we're applying be the lesser of the calculation or the budget deficit?
Yeah, did we choose the wrong percentage calculation?
Remember, she chose it because I remember the conversation, you guys came to a conclusion because you wanted to make sure you're using and showing use of the money and not saving it. So that was the conversation.
Right.
Well, I guess if we get bit this year, then we might have to modify our plan
Well,
for another
we're
year.
I mean, part of the reason it's this high is because we specifically bought a vehicle.
But that vehicle came out of the lump sum 75,000 from the year before that we were sitting on.
Mhm.
And then we've had one full year of them making payments, and we're into our second year now. So I think it's actually getting managed. I know what you're saying, that if we put too much into the overhead portion, will it show up that, oh, well, now there's, 10,000 more in the highway or police budget than there should have been. But
We have vacancy savings in the police department because we didn't fill that extra officer position.
right.
So
The
that,
money wasn't in the operating budget, though. It was in
this budget.
It wasn't in that operating.
okay.
No, it is
It was,
not.
we said we would pay that as a board. We agreed to
yes, that's
hire
true.
that
You're right.
officer. So if we don't hire that officer, that money should still be in the Cortina
Okay.
fund.
Well, and
Our
part of-
calculation of 17.5% might be too much, but I don't think it'll be enough. It's not going to be thousands of dollars that the police budget will be over.
Well, part of what
And
it is right now. I mean, but
Yeah.
part of what we also are trying to figure out simultaneously is, what funds will be left to potentially hire the officer in the next budget, which we did contemplate doing and budgeted for. And I don't remember
Right.
precisely what the number was, but we want to make sure we have at least that much, I think,
Well, if we take out the vehicle expense, we've got most of the money to hire the extra officer, because a big chunk of Kari's calculation is the purchase of the Tahoe.
and obviously we're continuing to get paid, but we're also continuing to incur overtime. So,
Yeah, because between overtime and the 17 a quarter is what,
So the other scenarios, that remember there were three choices.
Mhm.
And the three main officers that go down there, that percentage was 16.26 to use, not very far off of the 17 and a quarter. And then if we were to consider using the percentage of every police officer and Lynn, that's all the employees, that's 12%.
guess the part I'm unclear on, maybe I need to discuss it with Andrew, is how this gets reported at the end of the report.
Take a look at
'cause
the
that's
town report, how he put it in the audit last time.
necessarily
He
have
likes to do restricted funds, and he makes sure that the buckets do not, and I'm using his words, do
Yeah.
not mesh.
Yeah.
don't need to
Yeah,
resolve
you can't
this.
Yeah,
co-
no, I don't think
we shouldn't be commingling things.
Well,
because we're what, 74 and 60? Rough math between payroll and the 17 and a quarter.
Explain what you're,
The overtime payroll amount was 60,000.
yep, payroll is 61,252.
Yeah, fast math. And then the 17 and a quarter was, what did you say it was, 70 something? The 17
Of
and a
the
quarter.
expenses
Yeah.
that it's 79,619.
So that's
What are we taking 17 and a quarter of?
so that's 140,000.
Every line minus every expense line minus the SRO line minus the overtime line and minus the vehicle expense line.
Okay, so we're taking 17%
Of-
of the actual police budget amount and taking that 17% out of the Cortina money.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
we're moving $140,000 into the police budget from the Cortina fund.
No,
But the
Mm,
$203,000.
well, yeah, but minus the purchase of the cruiser,
right.
because that's
Yeah.
that's whatever. But in terms of the budget as it stands, we're moving 140,000 over against this budget, and the budget's only over 81,000.
When he does the end of the year stuff, and I say he because he gives me the final number for the sweep over, he makes sure that this is not part of the surplus or the deficit of our budgets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not, because you're 80 to 40, you're $60,000 difference. So I want
Right.
to make sure that we're not
Mhm.
essentially $60,000 on the good side, and that 60,000 gets swept to the capital improvement fund.
And that came out of the Cortina money. That's what everybody's concerned about.
That's where
We
we
don't-
don't eventually become offset from.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Where
this-
we could
To
hold
make-
that 60,000 in the Cortina fund and use that in the future.
This would be an ongoing issue because of the expense allocation, because we budgeted pay for that full expense of the department ourselves. So if we're allocating a part of that, this would continue to be an issue. Unless we limit our allocation to the overtime specifically and other special expenditures.
That doesn't make much sense to me because we need the overtime down there to deal with the problems that are down there.
Oh, I know, I'm saying
That's,
that's,
I want to try to hold as much money in
Yeah.
that Cortina fund as
I'm
possible.
not
That way-
arguing, we're on the same page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I want that money to even
just sit there.
foreseeably go past the Cortina ending even.
Anyways, something to think about. Maybe we need to have a committee meeting or ask Andrew how this comes out at the end.
Yeah, it's a head
'Cause
scratcher.
it's a little bit confusing,
Okay.
but thank you for the information. It's very
Yeah,
helpful.
that's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure we
So,
answered any questions here, but
Bill, let's,
There's nothing simple about that one.
let's keep this on the agenda for next time, and it's the question of allocating Cortina money toward the police department. And maybe we can get, I mean, it sounds like maybe we need to look at another number, like the
Yeah,
12%.
Maybe we're
instead of-
setting too much. Yeah.
And
aside.
so, okay,
Thank you for the math, though, Gary.
yeah, that was great.
Your headache.
Okay, so,
seems like it should be simpler than this, doesn't it?
I would like it to
No
be simpler,
comment.
but
It just, I don't know, you know, it was such a good idea, and then it's like, how did this snowball into such a?
No,
Yeah.
no comment.
Whenever you
Okay, so
feel
that-
stressed about it, just look out the window at that cruiser.
I know, that sort of takes care of the Cortina settlement fund, at least for now, and then
Uh-huh.
at least we have a handle on how much we're talking about. Did you want to sit in on the comp time policy discussion too?
Honestly, can we just go quickly over the childcare contribution thing?
Yes, please. Okay.
So, there was a webinar today, not as extensive as I had hoped. It was literally 10 minutes and then about 45 minutes of questions and answers. From this is what I got. So good news, everybody. More money's coming out of our paychecks. Yay.
Whether you have kids or not,
Whether we have kids or not, every,
and where is this money going to be spent?
Okay, so ready? So starting July 1st, there's something called the Vermont Child Care Contribution. And any employer is to pay a portion of wages to the state of Vermont, basically to put in a pool of money for people that need to access that money for their childcare needs. Even if we as employees do not have children that need childcare, we are to contribute to it.
And those of you paying childcare will be paying twice.
if you
Perhaps.
don't qualify. Yep.
So, it is for every employer. It is, let's see, how do I say this? I know the number. It's 0.44% of wages. And that means that the select board has to make a decision before July 1st, because the employer can elect to pay all of it on the behalf of each employee, or a third of it, and the employee is responsible for 0.11% of it coming out of their paycheck. So either way, we did not budget for this for next year.
Correct.
And it's happening. And where it's coming out of, I don't know.
Do you have a estimate of what the number would be
Nope.
based on payroll?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I just had it at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and there's no way to come up that quickly with those numbers.
Yeah.
You'd have to take, just to get a random thing, take all of the employees' gross income and then multiply it by whatever number we decide to choose.
All
And that'll
or
give you,
portion.
yeah.
Well,
So
we would need to know quarterly gross wages, and then,
Because it's reported out quarterly.
right, so then we could do the math on either 0.44% if we choose to pay the whole thing and see what that would cost the town, or the 0.11, and that would be
That would be on the
our
employee.
contribution. That would be on the employee. and
Employee,
we'd pay
you
the
would be
rest.
0.33.
So,
So we're paying 3/4,
That's correct.
or all or 3/4.
That's
Right.
correct.
There are choices.
So my inclination philosophically would be in the long run for the employer here to pay the whole thing. But I think we should wait on making a decision until we
Yeah.
have an estimate of the quarterly wage, because we have not budgeted for it for this particular year.
Because it
I can
runs
look
into
at those
4 different
numbers.
budgets. basically, right? Police, fire, highway in general.
I can look at those numbers and see if I can come up with some sort of estimate for next time that we meet.
Okay,
I
so
guess that's the best you can do.
I think we'll do
And is
what we
it based,
can.
it's based on the gross?
Yeah.
We don't need an
You
exact
make
numbers.
It's 0.44.
So if we're paying out what,
less than
sometimes
1%,
we
so it's
report
40
to
What
be-
is that? It's like, I'm trying to figure that in cents per.
Oh,
well, they used an example of a $20,000 employee. That doesn't exist, but anyway.
Now we're back to 1950.
Correct. And it was a payroll every, geez, it was $88 per, I want to say quarter. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at that closer, but they did give us an example.
1% on $100 is $1, right?
Right.
So
So-
0.44 is 44 cents on 100.
Give you an
So at
idea.
$1,000, you're going to be paying. So somebody making $1,000 a week,
Yeah.
you're going to give, it's $4.40. If you're making, so that's roughly how you could figure it.
Yeah.
So if you had a employee that's making $52,000 a year, you could multiply the 52 times $4.40, and you're going to be somewhere up in the 200 and something bucks.
If you're making 60 grand, it's $264 a year.
Right. It's about 44 cents per 100.
I don't think, I mean, it would be good to add it all up, but I don't think it's something that's gonna
Like a
sink
break
the
it.
ship here.
Yeah.
I beg to differ.
Well,
We got a lot of employees.
We do.
Uh-huh.
take the total number of payroll, just go right down
Yeah.
through, and
I
then
mean,
multiply it times 0.44.
Absolutely. That
Yep.
I
Divided by
just did
100
a 20, I just did a 20, again, a $20,000 salary, and per year it's $8,800.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got what?
Isn't it $20,000? One doesn't exist.
right.
But actually no, it's 0044.
Multiply times
Right, 0.044.
Yeah,
So it's
it's
40.
$88 a year. So that was per year.
Right, so basically what Matt, so at 60,000, it's 3 times that, which is the 264. So
So even if you had 20.
the
of
rough
those, you're
number
talking
is we
$5
go
grand.
through the town report, and see
Yeah.
what everybody made, that's your
I
gross,
was thinking.
and add
around
that
10
up
to
and then
20
multiply it and you'll come up with a number.
extra
I think it's gonna
somewhere,
be, how many,
You think 10 grand?
10 or more.
Well, now that we're paying firefighters and all that, and
yeah.
Yeah, you have to
What
take
the
every,
group of
all
people
the
that do
life-
not get this, here would be the lifeguards.
Yeah.
And that's it, because of their age.
anybody that you're taking out, I think social
Vermont withholding.
tax, anybody you're taking withholding tax out comes out of it, which
Correct.
includes the firemen, it includes highway, police,
Everyone except for the
rec-
lifeguards.
clerks,
the clerks, everybody that, so
Us.
us,
us.
Yeah.
yep. So you have to take that whole total payroll.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I can,
Cause I think that we could
Shouldn't
theoretically
Should be able to just
float
look at
that
the
for the next
quarterlies.
budget out of
That's
the,
fine.
out of the, 1% money. But I don't know how, if we,
we'll have to get some calculations for next meeting.
yeah,
Okay,
Just have to,
so
we'll have to look at the quarterly reports and
I'll dig out
Do
a
some
town,
math.
town report and go through page by
So,
page
Bill,
and
if
that.
you could
there's
put
the quarterly reports to
item
the state.
I,
for-
which is the town share of the Vermont
That's
Child
it.
Care contribution on for next meeting.
We send a letter to the state of Vermont and ask them to ask for the input of the public before they start passing things like this.
Yeah.
Good
actually,
God.
you'll be
Oh,
happy to know that Brian Collmore came in today.
Yeah.
And, I really like Brian, but let me just tell you, I was not shy about telling him how we feel, and neither was another department that he visited here as well. And so, just so you know.
You know,
our voice
I don't
was-
have a single problem with this money. I just don't think it's gonna go where it's supposed to go. And
Again,
I don't think the
exactly.
people that need it are gonna get it. It's,
And
the-
that's sort of the thing that's
you know,
happening.
it's just another pool of money
Hmm,
for those that know how to work the system to get into.
that's right.
Yep.
Got it, Joey.
All right, so that will be a fun topic for
Oh, boy.
2 weeks hence. And thank you for flagging it.
Any other good news you got?
Well, do you want to talk about my pay? I mean,
Yes,
that's
okay,
gonna be
this
great.
is,
Before, I have one question before that.
So
on the
Okay.
does
finances.
hazard pay come involved here?
So, Carrie, while we're talking about,
Oh, boy.
so fund balances, but eventually we'll get to,
What?
eventually we're going to get to
I
Mike, and
go
Mike,
for you, but yeah.
Mike is going to ask us about the sprayer. So that was a capital improvements question.
Oh,
Do we
yeah.
have an update on the capital improvement?
So I'm gonna say what I reported in the finance committee as this, and I believe that you received an email from Mary that reiterated this. So publicly, talking with Andrew, there's a couple of things. Again, really great news. So I was asked to get a balance for the capital improvements fund. And while it sounds really easy, it's not. So over the years, it's going to be a project. And the reason being is this. Over the years, money has been asked for from departments and granted by the select board. And then projects have happened, and then fiscal years have finished and surpluses have happened. And so essentially we have income from the surplus. Then we have expenditures that were or were not said okay by the select board. And then we have maybe some things that were bought with the promised money. So in the end, it sounds like this. It's a project because we have to go back in time and look at all of the meeting minutes. And we have to find out who asked for money. Was it documented? When was it asked for? How much was it asked for? Is the project still going? And was some of that money used yet, or was it all used? Again, it has to be all documented and then put in a spreadsheet to then figure out, okay, each year we also put in some money from the surplus. What does that leave us with? So it's going to take a team effort because it's not an easy project. We have to first start by going back in minutes. And what I was told is if it's not in the minutes, it never happened.
so is that something we can help? So you don't have to go through?
Yes,
Okay.
I would like some help, select board wise, bill wise, and department heads who have asked any money,
That would be the easiest way, because I know we did like 80 or 85,000 for the trail system.
correct.
Yeah.
I remember some of it because
And
I was
100
here for some of it, but we have to find
Right.
proof.
And 125,000 last fall,
For the highway,
or whatever, for the
correct.
highway truck. So, or whenever, 2 years ago.
Okay.
whatever.
And then.
Those are
once
two
we-
that I remember.
Exactly, me too.
And then there's a boatload or a fair amount that we allocated to the public safety building.
And that's where the question started.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
We need proof of how much in writing
And I think it's-
was allocated. I know that it was talked about. We
Yes.
have it on paper,
Yep.
but was it put in the minutes? And if it was not put in the minutes, then it never happened. So we know for a fact that the budget for the capital improvements was 100% fact on the ballot. So we can use that money,
Mhm.
which was 771,000. But we talked about an extra lot amount from that fiscal year, but was it ever voted on, passed in a motion and put in the minutes?
I
Okay.
do believe.
Because
but-
that's where this whole thing started. I was trying to find out how much we
Okay.
had to work with for the public safety building before I tapped into the bond.
Okay.
So how far back, I mean, if we're asking department heads, for example, to go to report on what their request for, how far back do people need to go?
It's a good question. I
When it
don't
was
know when
created?
capital improvements started, first of all.
About 2015.
Yeah.
Oh,
20,
okay.
so
Okay.
Mary was
Right.
elected to the board in 2014. I believe that was the year the surplus was found. I believe the vote was in March of 2015. The only reason I knew this is because I've just gone through numerous town reports to find the warning that allocated this for other reasons.
Right.
So you're looking at about 9 years.
So going,
I believe it was voted on in 2015, and it would have taken effect probably with that budget year. So that would be July 1st of 2015 would have been when the first amounts were put in. And it was a necessity at that point because of that surplus you guys discovered. And there were the allocations for cash to open, paying the bond for the station,
Right.
The building of the highway garage.
Yeah.
I think those were the three main players where that
Those
money-
were, I think, on the ballot.
those were all on the ballot.
Yeah.
Yes, those were
Yeah.
all
So that's a
things. So
good-
if you look at
I have plenty of resources for that.
but if you look at the
Back.
2015
Town report.
ballot items.
Yeah,
that's
and
where
the
you'll find-
and I have, yeah, we have all of that stuff.
Because I have all the town reports back to like when time started. So,
I'm sure you do.
and I looked through these to find, well, I wanted to find when it was allocated and
Right.
exactly how it was worded.
So moving forward, in this project, when I get kind of a baseline of where should we start here? We need, just keep thinking, and I'm just saying this to everyone, not just the select board, we need to keep a paper trail of everything like we normally do, but anything, even for this, like, so you asked for, like maybe 20 grand for a certain project. Did you spend any of that? As a department head, what did you spend it on? And here's the invoice for it. So I need all of that proof. And then that's going to be another fun, binder and spreadsheet project that I'll add to the rest.
so
of
then there
them.
will be an
Ongoing
spreadsheet.
That's right.
coming.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think that we
Right.
might have paid for the renovations to the town clerk's office out of that.
So it sounds like what we need rather than,
100 grand for a fire truck.
um,
I remember right.
rather than guessing.
Yeah.
I think engine 3 was two.
That could be.
There was
Let's,
some money for engine 3.
so,
But I do believe we voted on everything.
well,
that
let's,
much I will
let's
tell
find
you,
it in the
Kari, I-
minutes. And I think if we start with the minutes, and that's going to tell us, because I think we were pretty clear when we
You don't
said
have a
capital
box of
fund.
minutes at home from all of the meetings.
You know what I do? I go
When I
on,
attended the meetings on phone, I have this box of minutes.
I go on and just go back.
Yeah.
That's when I discovered we were missing 6 months worth of minutes. But that's when, I
Bill,
mean,
is there any way to, like, if you're searching that in the thing to, like some searches you
capital
can do,
improvement.
if you use keywords, is there a way that it might work?
I have the list for this fiscal year
Okay.
of the minutes that include the word capital improvement. I haven't looked at them yet.
Okay.
The purchasing policy, which you have copies of, in the back of it has history of depreciation and capital improvement votes. Capital improvement vote says 2015.
Okay.
15, yeah. So we got about 9 years of research to do
Okay.
in order to give you an actual number to help you out.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
One more
Yeah.
process point. So
Go ahead.
on a going
I would
forward
allocate that
basis,
maybe we hire somebody specifically to help Kari and Bill research this. If there's somebody out there that's good with a computer, it's got the time to sit down and look through stuff. This is a special, like, I mean, it's important,
No, I agree.
if we could find somebody.
that could be that.
I've got the word out to anybody I meet, asking them if they know anybody that
You
wants.
have
to
all
do
these in a
a
folder
clerical
that you can
part-time
search,
job
right?
working for the
And
town
then
of Rutland.
You just have to, then you look at the search results.
Okay.
But going forward what would be the best way of making sure that when a decision gets made, that it gets translated onto the
I
spreadsheet?
love that question. It just, Andrew and I have this question quite often because while I attend most of these and listen to a majority of the time that I'm in here, I miss a lot. And the communication just has to come to my office in important, I don't know what the best way is, but anything that affects my office financially needs to come across my desk somehow.
I don't know if we make a form. So we
sticky note.
well, a sticky note would be a
We
good start,
spent
but if
this
we-
much money
when we
tonight.
do a capital
Right on the computer
improvement,
screen.
say expenditure, is there something that
Oh, wow,
we could
you up
fill
to
out
it.
something
Whatever's
different, so
in
it's
that.
not just in the minutes. You know, it's like all the policies that the town adopted over
Did
the
you eat the whoopie?
12
pie?
years I was chief and my 9 years as board member. And Bill's still trying to find the policies, remember? You found a lot, but we adopt policies,
I know.
but they went into policy limbo and nobody knows where did it go?
So everything, well,
Yeah.
you're right. Everything that's current is in that book.
Right, yes, because we found out we had this big shortcoming of adopting things and not right.
Okay,
So
well, we got two things going forward. And how can we communicate clearly to the clerk's office that this is a financial something?
Yeah.
Um,
does Andrew have any suggestions? Maybe that's a good, how would
yeah,
normal,
what
how
do
would
other
real
towns
business,
do?
how would real businesses do this?
yeah,
There's lots of forms of communication. I don't know. I don't know if we wanted to discuss, no. I think that's a topic for another night.
all right.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
we-
the going forward piece we need to solve, but we need looking backwards so that we can answer some of these questions like how much is in the fund. And Andrew and you both need that for the audit that he's working on, obviously, too. So back to Bill, have we been able to flag, I mean, you've done 1 year's worth. Did it take very long? Okay.
It's not a complicated thing. It just is a process. It just
Time consuming.
get the list and go through the list and open them up and look at what it said. And
Okay.
A lot of reading.
it was a lot of reading. But
Yeah. All right.
we're reading a lot of things. So
But I think that maybe we need,
Can you do a year's worth, maybe 2 years worth, and tell us how much time it takes?
Sure.
Okay.
Or you could potentially have the whole thing done, but by the time we meet next time.
Well, I know that's possible too.
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I mean,
it's possible. Yes.
Okay.
does anybody know anybody that can help us with this?
Yeah, well, it's not that because then the person then it's okay. Like let's.
I think it should be internal right now. It's financial stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, give it a shot. Let's find out how much time it takes. If it's one of those where,
If it takes longer than doing the minutes, he's in trouble.
yeah, right. So, I mean, maybe we could each take a year, for example, if we needed to, or
There's
2
a lot.
years.
Depends upon how many are. So I have to go back and look at what
It is what it
how far
is.
back online they go. They can give you the list. But
Mhm.
if they're online, the only way to get them is from here.
I thank you
So-
for not
Okay.
sticking me
there's
with,
that. So
Okay.
you know who at the
Let's-
polls.
there's some ways to do that. Certainly the last
I think.
5 years, 6 years is going to be pretty good. List of what's on.
Okay.
Go from there, but
Okay.
anybody get to those. So
Okay. Give us a shot. And so on the agenda for next time is flagging capital improvement fund expenditures. And that will be both for what have we done in the past and how can we make it something that gets translated to Kari's office in the future. Okay. All right.
Sticky note.
No, we're not
just
going
put
to.
them over there in their
sticky-
door.
Spent
This
money
is,
on this.
and
You
stick it on
stick
the-
it to the orders, stick it on
So-
the doors.
So.
Put it on her door
So
when
we
she
got
comes.
Text message.
to-
Hey, Kari, we blew a bunch more money tonight.
So
Ship it off.
You come to
back
work
to
and
item C under action needed. My suggestion in my email was we shouldn't be spending anything out of the capital improvements fund for the balance of this year until we know what's in
Figure
there.
out what's
we weren't
going
gonna
on there.
spend the money for the sprayer until after July 1st anyway. I think that was a plan, right? Well, yeah, once we had a figure.
If that's the case, then I'm no meeting, no report, I'm going home. Literally, that's the case. I don't, whatever, there was no rush, but I didn't want it to get pushed off.
Right, and I think that was what we
If
decided 2
need
weeks
to
ago, that
settle
we would
then
wait.
That's more important than.
We need to come up with a balance.
We do need the
And
balance.
it better be plus
So-
side, not negative side, because we're gonna look stupid.
Okay, so it looks like item C
Yeah.
will hold over the purchase of the sprayer for the rec department. Will
Yeah.
hold over until,
See, I thought we talked about this last time, that we were gonna
You
wait
can go
until.
home if you want.
but then wasn't there another figure that came in? A different figure for the sprayer itself?
That's yeah. I did find another alternative on another vendor that's in the packet.
Yes.
Is,
Are you a Northern Tool and Equipment member?
we are now.
We are?
We are.
Because I pay that every year, so if I could, I'll buy it if it's cheaper, but.
Well, we have a commercial charge account with them now. Because
Okay.
the only way they would do it for is a credit card, and that was not a wise use of a credit card to make that big purchase. So we have an account we can charge it on, so.
Okay, perfect.
That costs nothing to get that.
So this is back to rec committee. Do we want to take it up now? It's on our agenda. There's an open question about how much is in the capital improvements fund. What's your pleasure with item C?
Put it on hold until we know. I make that motion. That's
Okay, motion to
we can't spend
table
it.
item C.
Yeah, we can't spend it until we know.
Second.
Okay, motion's
thought we
been
did
made
this.
and seconded to table item C. Right, yeah.
And like I said,
Or if you
Mary, I
don't know
thought we
what you
did that
have,
last
you
time.
probably shouldn't spend it.
I don't know what I did with my minutes. I go back
well,
and read them again. But
Okay, well,
Let's kind of hoping that
we'll stick it on the agenda. We do have a slightly different amount anyway, so let's stick it on the agenda well, it's tabled, so it comes on the agenda every time until we finally deal with it.
Right.
All right, all in favor of tabling item C, which is the sprayer purchase, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Sharon?
Well, I'm a little bit confused.
So, but-
If we need the sprayer,
But-
my problem is this, Mike Rowe never asked for a damn thing. And
So the minutes from the
So I'm
last
gonna
meeting,
say no.
the minutes
I'm
from
not
the
gonna
last
say-
minute
Okay.
meeting read, discuss the purchase of sprayer, which would be mounted on the tracks. The cost is $4,675.99. This could be used on all town properties. The initial cost was proposed to come from the capital improvement fund. We will contact VLCT to see if there are any liability or any restriction for town employees doing spraying. The balance of the capital improvement fund needs to be known as well. And I believe that's what we talked about before, because we have agreed to buy the sprayer from the capital improvement fund, but we had to find out if we had the capital improvement fund funds to do it. And Kari has told us that because of lack of paper trail, we don't know how much money is in the darn fund now. So we aren't saying no. We're still going to buy the sprayer, provided the funds are available, which I believe they will be. And we just got to know. It's a wise decision to not spend anything out of that fund until you know what it is. And I think we had that I thought we had that discussion last week. And that's why we said, okay, we're going to say yes to Mike because we're going to buy this, but we need to know how much is there. We spent almost $1 million out of that fund for the public safety building.
That's what scares me a little bit.
Right.
That's what
And we were
scares me.
basing it on
Uh-huh.
what we thought we knew for expenditures and what we thought we knew. And Andrews told Kari that thinking isn't as good as, yeah, we needed some
Proof.
writing. So
Okay.
we're going to do it. And we're going to come up and say, oh, gee, we didn't spend anywhere near as much as we got.
Okay.
Or
One can only hope.
one can only hope.
The motion carries 4-1 to table it.
All right.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea. Well, anyway.
Okay, so that leaves with Kari, item F, town clerk and treasurer pay request. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So Matt and I met with Kari and she posed two possibilities to us, and I should probably let you, pointing out that the unanticipated work due to the two special elections on the school budget, and I think it's fair to say the cutback in hours of the other person working in your office, plus the inability to find the staff person that we had budgeted for, but you haven't found the right fit. All of that has created you working more time.
Correct.
Okay, so I've summarized it correctly. So you have two proposals that you wanted the select board to consider. So why don't you go ahead and.
So as you know, the workload has certainly been much more these days. So My two proposals are this. It's an either or situation. I could continue I could work my 40 hours as a salaried person, and leave at my time and just drop the workload at the door and go home. That's one proposal, to do that as a salaried person. What will end up happening with that scenario is the workload's already backed up and it will continue to back up. The other proposal is I'm usually here beyond my 40 hours at any given time. I work at home and I work beyond my hours here. Elections especially, I am here for multiple hours and I'm not paid for it. It's been said in the past that my position is expected to do that, but the workload has it greatly increased, and I am proposing that any hours after my 40 hours, I will work a time and a half to make sure that the work is caught up and my office runs efficiently.
Does that come up with an hourly rate? Do you have an hourly rate for time?
I do not have an hourly rate for that.
I mean, it would be basically like, that's the one thing about when you run into salaried positions, it's hard to sometimes get what you need done.
But there is a state law.
Yeah.
That is set right. But if you go over X amount of hours, then you have to pay time and a half.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any
I
problem.
ran into that.
If you're not exempt.
Well, why would you be exempt?
We don't have time.
Well, we do have time
Is
because she
there
has a question.
statutes that
I think
regulate
it's
how we
fair to
pay her?
answer.
Is there something in the legislature or statutes that prohibit us paying her overtime?
We would have to.
Huh?
I think we have to research what our authority is. I think my understanding right now is that her position is an exempt position under wage and hour law. That means she's gets salary and that's it. You don't get, it's an executive function. You're expected you just have to do the job. Now, I don't disagree that I'm not going to sit here and say the positions, it's two positions, town clerk and treasurer. I've never thought we've been overcompensating this position.
No.
I'm totally sensitive to that fact. I just don't know what our authorities are in terms of making a decision.
So before we make a decision, do we need Kevin to research what we can do?
So. Yeah, to give us the extent of our authority. And we also have.
So shut the door at 4 o'clock and go home.
Continue.
We're trying to work this through.
Well, I understand, but it seems like it's certain things for certain people and certain things different for other people here.
Right.
So
and it seems like it's the Mary and Matt show and the rest of us don't have an input.
No, we met with Kari as the personnel committee.
Well, I think extremely unfair that the rest of us, well, never mind.
Sorry, but that's what the committee structure is about.
Committee?
And we brought it to
listen, you don't even let us have our committee meetings. I'm fired. You tell me that we got to have a fire meeting. Why didn't somebody come to me and say,
we haven't had a fire committee meeting.
That's what you told me.
We haven't had one, and we need to have.
So anyway, let's get to the point here is that we need to find out what we can do as a board to compensate Kari for the extra hours. I'm hoping our hands aren't tied by some statute somewhere that says because you're a town clerk and treasurer, you get to work 80 hours a week at 40 hours pay, because I don't like that.
If that's the case, then you gotta adjust the salary rate. If that's
Somehow we got to adjust the salary rate, or does that position have to be salaried and should it be hourly?
Good question.
So these are questions. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
Kari
lots of
can,
questions to
Kari
be
can
had.
set her hours, okay?
Yeah.
And she has, and that's fine. But the other thing, in addition to finding out whether we have the authority, is keeping in mind that we've already budgeted. And so a question to Kari, where would you see the money coming from to take care of the overtime?
So you did pose that, and I did bring that up during the committee meeting. So the third person line this year hasn't been touched, theoretically has not been touched. The extra elections are going in the election line. So for the next, if this were to be approved, which it sounds like you guys will have to talk to the lawyer, so that's gonna delay it a little bit. But for the rest of this fiscal year, I could tap into that line and because I'm willing to work the time if I have time in my family life, because that comes first, to come in and do extra work on the weekends if I have time, or if I'm staying over, it would come out of that line. Next year, in the next fiscal year, I do believe, and I'll have to look again closer, that it will come out of Susan's line because she reduced her hours. And I think we budgeted for full. I'm not certain there.
We could still, and my proposal would be that we could take it out of that extra person line until such time as you hire somebody. Because once she hires somebody, we're not going to need the extra hours she's putting in. In other words, that office looks like it needs about 110 hours a week, would be my guess. So how we finance 110 hours is it's actually in the budget. We have 2 40-hour people
Well,
plus,
Yeah, I mean,
so the money is probably there. It's just
probably there.
my concern is only a legal one. It's not whether or not we pay her.
And
I
here's,
think the payment is there.
and here's, I mean, I brought up, I mean, you're welcome to listen. It was a public meeting. It's videoed. Please listen to it and all of my points. But I am not like the rest of the salaried people in this town. And all I want is to be treated as such. I cannot leave when I want to compensate hours if I work over. I'm a public office, as you know, and if I close, I like to let people know ahead of time, but I rarely close because it really does not, number one, look good, and number two, make people believe in the office, that they like to have it open to do their business. So I cannot scoot out of here if I work an election until 10 o'clock at night. I can't compensate those hours because number one, my second person isn't here all the time anymore. And number two, I can't close the office. So I'm not like the salaried people in this town. And if there's a legal matter about it, I am willing to fight tooth and nail, because I have been here till 2 a.m. before on free time. And I just don't see me doing that for a long period of time anymore with the amount of
We're not
work.
talking about fighting. We're
No,
talking
no.
about finding solutions.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
I have no problem with paying you for the extra hours you work. I just want to make sure we don't do something that comes back to bite us. Because we could probably vote right now and you'd probably get 5 votes to pay you time and a half for extra time. And then find out that somebody up in that Secretary of State's office says, no, you can't do that. So, and if that's the case, then we got to figure out a way around that. So we can compensate. And there's usually a way around everything, some way.
The other thing we have to keep in mind is, the way you're thinking about it is, the overall budgeting for the office. We also have to look, if we make a change, we have to look to the next fiscal year, because the budget is set for that fiscal year.
Like I said, that fiscal year budget roughly covers 110 hours. I think you had assumed, if I'm not mistaken, about 30 hours for a part-time person.
Yes.
And there was a set rate. Now, granted, that set rate would be less than what you would be compensated at, so it would be less hours, but the money is there in the 25 budget. Just how do we go about doing it without doing something that's not in? So there's going to be a delay which is never nice, but.
Right,
And
and
then
that's,
it may also be possible that if we get permission to do this, I don't know if you can pay retroactively, back.
Well, so a question is at what, and I wasn't clear on this when we talked. Where do you want us to go back to? Do you want us to go back to for the overtime? Have you kept track of, I guess that's a fair way of putting it. Have you kept track of it?
every single time I work, which is every day, is on my timesheets from when I started, and every minute is on my timesheets, which is why it's so important for everyone to be truthful on their timesheets, please, because we need them for reference. So
back
yes,
to
you
your
can go
question.
back to mine and look.
How far back would you want us to go?
Yeah, right.
How retroactive, if we can do this?
I think, let me think about that, because I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking moving forward, but,
So, are you suggesting there are employees that are submitting false timesheets?
I am just saying from this point forward, just make sure that you are using it like I use it. I can't always remember what I've done on a day, so I clock in and I clock out on the same day that I'm putting on my timesheet. It's truthful, it's there, no questions asked.
Okay,
I think it's a good practice for everybody. That's all I'm saying.
all right. Okay, so that is a question for Kevin.
Yes, yeah, I
Okay.
think we need to find out if we're authorized to
Very
do
good.
this. If it's not if there's no something out there that prohibits us from paying our town clerk and treasurer overtime because she's got to work, the
Yeah.
workload is there, then I think the board supports it. It's just, you know what I'm getting at, Kari.
I do.
I'm not saying no.
I'm hopeful that when we ask our attorney that he thinks about it swiftly, because I don't
There's
want to
several
see
things
this.
stacking up on
There
his
is.
plate. I
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah.
There is.
And I
We'll
don't
tell him
know,
this is something we want him to move to the top of the pile.
I mean, is that something that you could ask the Secretary of State about? Or would that be inappropriate?
I think we should go through Kevin first.
Okay.
Okay, so F, which is the pay request, I'll talk to Kevin. Do you want to be? Well, let me see if I can get Kevin first, so I'll pose the issue to him. And it may be one of those where he has to call in to a meeting, maybe not. I mean,
if
maybe
he
it's
can
a
come up with
straightforward answer.
give us an answer and we
Okay.
could do something in 2 weeks, that'd be great.
Okay, and so this goes on the agenda for 2 weeks hence too. All right, comp time policy, which is something that you also, do you want to be in on this discussion too? Because it affects how you keep track of and pay
I do.
employees. Okay.
I've taken a lot of time. Maybe I can, go sit over there.
We won't blame you for how long this part takes. Might not
Doesn't
take long
mean
at
we're
all.
not
I
gonna
don't know.
talk to you, if you're over there, if you're up there.
H in your packet. And I know sorry. H deals with an issue that compensatory time would, and I'm not going to do this well, and I should just ask Matt if he will do it, but basically we don't have a comp time policy in the town of Rutland. A comp time would allow an employee to, if the employee works overtime, they would be paid cash, for 1.5 times their usual rate, or they could, if we adopt this policy, request comp time off at some other time.
And the comp time would be at the same hourly rate, same hours. In other words, if you work 3 hours, which would normally be overtime, you get 3 hours off, or you get 2 hours off. How do they?
Yeah.
I've never been involved with that because I've never worked for anybody.
Right, I
So
know.
if you're working
If I may?
time and a half.
Yes.
Can I jump in quick? So,
Yep.
The way that I talked to Teresa, the way we kind of had it set up was if you work an hour of overtime, that's an hour, you get paid time and a half. So your comp time would be an hour and a half. So if you work 3 hours, you'd get 4.5 hours of comp time to use at a later date. If you want to take a day off or a half a day or whatever, you would get compensated an hour and a half for every hour that you work.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there's a 40-hour cap in this policy of what you could accumulate. Well, and another important point that goes to what we were just discussing, this only applies to non-exempt employees, so those who are eligible for overtime pay. So, I mean, right now, I don't think Kari would be eligible unless we could change it for her, the classification of her job for this. But this is, would cover certainly, highway and police department. So if they're working time and a half, they would have the option of either getting paid or accumulated comp time up to 40 hours that they could use, and so the 40 hours they can carry over, but that would be the limit from one year to the next. So beyond that, they would get paid. And then the town would have the discretion to buy down those hours. If we buy down, they're getting paid at straight time because they got, in the calculation of the hours, they get time and a half. So you get paid back at your hourly rate.
Straight time. Yep.
So we're proposing this. We did want it in effect before the end of the fiscal year. You haven't seen, well, it was in your packet. So we wanted to address this and have it in place by July 1st. If you have questions about it and you want to hold off, that's okay. If you're ready to vote on it, that's okay.
I mean, has
the department head seen it?
This iteration, no.
Okay.
You want to send it around to department heads?
I think we
Okay.
should probably get their
I mean, are we
feedback before we.
following normal procedures here? Which
Well,
are
it makes some sense, but
Yeah.
I mean, based on what Dave
the
said.
department heads seem to like the idea of comp time. The actual language of this is not what they've seen.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's a good,
Should probably pass this around to them just to make sure there's not some
Okay.
issue.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen various versions of it, and it's been extremely clunky. Now I don't know what the new version is, but the previous versions have been not great. So I would like to see the new version.
Yeah,
Okay.
then we need the department heads to get that feedback back to us or Teresa ASAP in order to get this done so that she can finalize the timesheet, all of which we want to have
Right.
going.
July 1st.
So,
I'm sorry.
The board in general, all of it.
Um,
If we look at
yeah, I guess you might as well. I mean, hopefully we can.
I mean, there's two department heads I can think of that have experience with comp time, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So
why-
Bill, would you send around, do you have this draft policy? Yes, because it went in the packet. Would you please send it around to all department heads and ask for feedback to come back within a week would be helpful. Okay. Thank you.
and any pertinent suggestions. Because, if there's something in there that they can add to it that would help speed up the process, well, this is kind of bocky, or this is ununderstandable, or whatever.
And Bill, if you could put this on the agenda for next meeting too, please. Okay. Thank you. So that we keep.
If we do adopt this, we ultimately do need to change this start date to the
Yeah, I know.
fiscal year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we were doing that because it was kind of a Kari question, but Kari's going to get a copy of the comp policy as one of the department heads. So if you, within a month or within a week, if you could take a look at this in your spare time and, let us know if it's workable and is clear enough, because you're the one who's going to have to deal with the comp time issues. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
all right. So I think that's it for Kari's time. Yes. All right. Is Mike Delehanty on? Yes. Thank you, Kari, by the way. Mike.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Almost fell asleep there waiting for my time.
Yeah. So did I.
Actually, I don't have anything new for you guys. I just actually got a new truck, which I'm just in the process of getting set up. Yeah, outside of that, I truly just don't have anything new for you for this round.
Okay.
Well, thanks for staying on for
Yes.
2.5,
very much.
3 hours. Holy moly.
Yeah.
You
That's
enjoy
all right.
it? There's been some entertainment here.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, take care.
Cue the circus music. Yeah.
Ed Dumas, Town Police Chief.
No meeting, no report. No.
Nice try.
Can't say that.
So I did go to CFAC to discuss the budget for the other thing, and they're in the middle of hiring a new director. So they said, can we wait till we get a director on?
Okay.
I did mention the fact that it had to be a wash or we weren't going to do it. And Mary, she says we need to wait for the director to
Okay.
make that decision. So that's
All
where we're
right.
at right now.
All right. So can we put it on for the next? Do you think you'll have something in, or is that
I will email you all if I
Okay.
get some answers.
fair
I
enough?
think we just leave it pending till.
I'll let Bill know. He can let you know or whatever and put on the
Okay.
thing. Bill's a go-to, throw everything at him kind of guy.
All right.
I don't have anything else really at this point.
Well, there were two quick things I wanted to mention. One is a commendation from a state trooper who was ably assisted by Officer Placus and Rooster in finding his badge.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Right.
Over in Proctor, he got into a dispute with a gentleman that needed help. Let's put it that way. In the process, the trooper lost his badge. Called Rooster. He didn't think he would be able to do it. Wasn't acting right, and he went over there and found it. Not where they thought it was either. It was off other side of the railroad track. So he did good. Very good. Rooster's been quite when he's working, he's called all the time, especially when it comes to the finding drugs in vehicles. And he doesn't make a lot of times the issue with the dog, if they think they want to get the treat, so they'll alert on something and there's nothing there. They're just trying to get the treat. But a Rooster, it's a credit to Jimmy, his dog, and the training, and he's just that kind of person. Guys that are canine handlers, usually, in my opinion, over the last 40 years I've watched them, are usually good husbands, good fathers, and they know how to handle a dog. They just do it, and that's what described Jimmy to a T for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks to Officer Placus and to Rooster. Now, there was also an email that you sent commending the work JP put on something that has also now come to a conclusion, and I sent it to all of us. And that's the resolution of State versus Delehanty, which was the complaint that the town of Rutland, through JP pulling it all together, complaint made and presented to the state's attorney's office for the dangerous conditions at the then Holiday Inn that resulted in among other things, the explosion that nearly killed some of our firefighters there. And what happened was ultimately the then state's attorney did not prosecute the case, did not take it. So what came through just recently was an expungement of the record, as if nothing was ever brought against this particular then owner or operator of the Holiday Inn at the time. And I think the chief wanted us to know that there was that result, but also that there was an enormous amount of work that JP had put in pulling this case together. And I do remember some of the conversations around it.
Not only that, but I forgot to mention Bill. I mean, he put together, how many books did he have you do? 10, 12? We're talking notebooks of all the information needed. And I know Bill put that together. We gave one to the state attorney. I got one. Everybody got a copy. And there was an issue with the health code laws that no prosecutor in the state of Vermont had ever prosecuted him. So there was this hesitancy to go forward with those charges. And as a result, I don't think the firemen got what they deserved. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But it wasn't on lack of trying either.
No, and we all appreciate it very much. Things don't always go our way.
I know. No.
But that doesn't lessen our gratitude for the work that Bill and JP put in, and you as well. So thank you very much. Okay.
I have just one. Anything on? We talked a lot about hiring another officer. How's that come along? The personnel policy thing.
That was the piece of the personnel policy that needed to be rewritten to take out to take out the nepotism policy and add the conflict of interest language.
Okay.
So we haven't drafted this yet. So sorry about that.
It's close.
We're getting there. Yeah.
Should we move forward with hiring the police officer anyway?
I
We
would
already
suggest we take care of that piece in our personnel.
already have nepotism in this
all
town
over the
as
place.
is.
And I think that's why, and it's not just this particular hiring, it's a policy that we need to clean up town-wide.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of question
I think
out
we
there.
should move forward with hiring our police officer so we can get the extra boots on the ground and get things rolling.
Is that a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to hire the new police officer. Matt?
Well,
But I'm asking Matt because this, the personnel committee has been working and discussing it, but
I mean, I think we need to get the policy done. We've been spending a lot of time on it. We still have a ways to go. I mean, it would have been ideal to have it done by the end of the fiscal year, but we've had a lot on that committee's plate. So I don't know that we're going to make it necessarily. The other missing piece to this, in my view, was the getting a handle on how much the Cortina funds we have available. I think we have some better idea about that now. I think we can use some further clarification from Andrew. We also don't know yet what's going to happen with the school budget. And if the school budget keeps failing, there's a limited number of things that they can cut. And one of those is the SRO. So that could be an issue that we may have to be looking to pick up the tab on as well. We really don't know yet. So I'm not comfortable moving forward at this point. I think we need some of these things to shake out before we can really make a decision.
I think, well, as much as I want to go ahead with this, my concern would be similar to us paying Kari over. Do we open ourselves up to some kind of a challenge because we have a policy in place that we're knowingly violating? And I understand Kurt's point with a fire and different other similar situations, but not quite the same.
Part of what you're touching on too is, I think, a specific possibility for hire that I don't think we should talk about in public.
Yeah.
I just want to know if it was going. I want to force it.
We're back to it isn't a no.
Okay,
It's
right,
just,
right. Just wait.
well, I mean, I think Matt articulated it. It's the policy and it's on budget uncertainty in a couple of different areas.
I'm
too.
good with that.
So a motion's been made and seconded. Do we want to go ahead with the vote? All in favor of the vote to go ahead with the new police hire, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. The noes have it. We're not hiring at this time.
I have a concern that we need to look at is if the school budget fails and they cut the funding for the SRO, I don't think we can fund that position. We need to find out about this because we would be if she's still going to be the SRO, but the town is paying for it, we're subsidizing the school's budget, and I don't think we can do that.
No, I think we'd sign her up for CFAC, and there's our CFAC officer, and we're gonna have to take a little bit of hit on the.
She wouldn't be able to do it because she's not level 3. You're dealing with, felony cases.
She could operate, she would be you know what I'm saying? I think there's some stipulation that we can't do that. In other words, the town can't pay her salary and allow her to be the SRO. We're paying half now and the school pays half, but we would be subsidizing the school about 30,000, is it 35 that they put in? How much do we?
Well, they put in that's a whole other topic for finance, which is that they have been paying us more than we have budgeted for receipts.
Right.
Unclear how that
every
can, but that's another thing.
So anyway, I think that we have to be careful there about that. Excuse me.
Okay.
All right.
So, all right. And I'll try in my conversation with Kevin to raise that too. He might know off the top of his head.
JP might be a good resource because he was the legal
true.
counsel for the school board or is it whatever he was.
Speaking of, is JP on tonight?
He is not. He is not.
Yeah. All right. Anything further for Chief Dumas? Okay. Thanks for your participation.
We'd like to hire the other
Yeah.
16 officers you wanted.
Yeah.
Our hands are kind of tied.
I'm working a case, so I gotta go.
Okay.
I won't be. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for staying.
Okay. Barbara Noyes Pulling, Town Planning Commission Chair.
Hi,
Sleep.
good evening.
Oh, she's awake.
I think it's
Good
still the
evening.
evening, right? We're not into morning yet.
Morning.
Just one item, action number, or action D. That pertains to the Town Planning Commission, applying for a municipal planning grant. It should be MPG, from the state, to get more information and inventory our housing and what might be most desirable among residents. The MPGs, they're out, they come out every year. For something like this, there would be a $30,000 maximum from the state, then 10% from the town. So that would give us a $33,000 to work with. That application period will open up September, October this year. So the Planning Commission is wondering if they could spend time putting that application together, maybe working with the Regional Planning Commission on that. And also of note, the city is doing a couple of similar studies, analyses right now. They're doing a housing needs assessment, and it should be done about that time that we're putting the application together. So maybe we can be using some of their information. And they're doing another analysis about development where transit is available, which may have some information as well. So that is the ask, which is, can the Planning Commission put together an application for the town?
And this is on housing, basically.
Yes.
So it ties in with our discussion here a little bit earlier today. It also ties in with the housing survey that Rutland Town was asked to participate. We had, 77 responses? And the select board, before we moved on anything, wanted some more input. So this ties in with that request for input. So do we give the Planning Commission the okay to apply for a municipal planning grant?
So move.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
I said aye.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Barbara. You've got our blessing and thanks for moving forward with that.
Okay, we'll keep you in touch about it. And
Okay.
that's all I have, unless there's some questions.
Any questions?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I did visit with the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago. It was a good time. They had a lot of questions about a lot of different things. So it was a good session. Okay, Mike Rowe, Town Rec Director.
Good evening.
Hi.
I only have a couple things since our next meeting is in June. Well, where did that go? Our pool signups will be on June 5th and 6th, which I believe is Wednesday and Thursday from 5 to 7 at the pool. And that is for our first round of lessons, which are starting on the 17th. We will open officially on the 14th at 12 o'clock because school gets out at 12 o'clock on the 14th. And that's what we have traditionally done for the 20 some years I've been there. We have a number of parties lined up, which is good. So we'll hope to open the first, like I'm going to turn it on. So the electric bill will go through the roof on Friday, is the hope to have it turned on by Friday, Bill. And then it will run. And then if it's nice that fall next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, then we will open up and go from there. If it's nice and they don't mind swimming in, 40-degree water, which can
So is
wake
that
you up
Caution on the
and put you down.
That caution on the news when the air
Yes.
temperature gets to 80 and said, yeah, the lakes are still like 36.
Yeah.
Hypothermia sets in about 3 seconds. Yeah.
So we've done some sprucing up down at the pool, painting the building. We painted some of the work that we've done that was pressure treated, and now it will it looks really nice. So some of the kids that have come back, have done a good job getting us ready to go. Other than that, everything's running smoothly. Baseball's going great. As far as my line items and my budget, usually it's over 20,000 that somehow finds its way back into the capital improvement fund. I'm hoping this year that I'm not hoping, it'll probably be more like 5. So I will not go over my whole budget. But I will come pretty close, and that's going to be the first time in a long time. First time ever for me, actually. So the cost of things have gone up, and I level funded for a long time. And it's hard to predict, right? But the bottom line, as Kari tells me, is that you didn't go over your total budget. So there are items that I've already gone in my mind blown past, and $100 over is blown past for me. You need to understand that. That really drives me nuts.
So if you're going to be, 5,000 under at the end, and we haven't figured out this capital improvements thing,
Yeah,
then
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
I'm not as familiar with your budget. Is there a new equipment line in your budget?
There is, but it's not a tremendous amount.
How much is it?
$500. No, new equipment. It's either 2,000.
Oh, there's a method to what I'm asking.
I understand the method, but it's already been spent. But yes,
Right, but
I could deficit spend. I understand what you're saying.
if that line on them is overspent,
like I said,
but your budget's not overspent, then
correct.
It's the same thing, only different.
I will have a better idea after these bills are put into the system and I look at my spreadsheet next time.
And
I think I hear the wheels turning. Yes.
Well, see, that's my wheels
Well,
turning
yes.
because I ran a budget for a long time, and I know that is an acceptable procedure.
It is correct, but I also like to.
I understand that, but it kind of
Kari gets mad at me like I'm over like 92 cents and something.
Yeah, well,
stuff like that bothers me. I try not to do that.
Keep that in mind.
I will, and thank you.
I think
Other than that, I don't really
Okay.
think I have everything. Everything's going well.
Any questions for Mike?
Just a suggestion. That's all.
No, Joe, I don't know.
No
everything.
question.
Oh, I did take a course today that now certifies me for something at the pool. It was kind of mumbo jumbo, but it was actually a very good course about pool safety and maintenance.
I see.
Okay.
Just a half-day course. A lot of management stuff, which was really good. So I have a whole thing on it. So it was good to go to today.
Okay. Thank you, Mike Rowe.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Have a wonderful evening.
Yes.
Or actually,
Yes.
early morning.
Thank you.
Yeah. Still,
All right.
we'll talk, right?
Dave Sears, Town Road Commissioner.
Good morning, everyone. What time is breakfast?
Yes.
Being ordered?
Yeah. Meet you at Mary's.
Okay, deal.
What time is she open?
So
Flowers.
I haven't spoken to you guys in, it's weird, like if you miss a meeting, you haven't spoken to you guys in like a month, so, I don't know that I can eclipse Kari, but I can be really close. So, settle in for about an hour.
Righty then.
We're gonna shut the recording off in 15 minutes.
All right, so just, I'll be quick. Since the last time we met, I believe we put the panhandler signs up down in Green Mountain Plaza. And, I'm happy to report that they're still there. I didn't think they'd have that long of a shelf life.
When did they go up, Dave?
And only because it's 20 after 9 will I say that we put one down on Route 4, about 50 feet ahead of where they sit at Route 4 and 7, and that one is still there, believe it or not.
Okay.
Dave, when did the plaza one go up?
I don't know the exact date, but it was like 4 weeks ago.
Oh, because I drove by, I was out there the other day and I totally did not notice it. It may have been because of
Not on
the.
the island.
Oh.
They're to the,
Yeah,
as
they're
you're
not on
pulling
the
out.
island where they stand.
Right.
So there's one as you turn into the plaza, into the first parking, or into the first driveway by 99. When you come to that end of that, if you look straight ahead of you on light post, there's one right there.
Okay.
And then if you turn left and go down like you're going to exit, when you get to that second stop sign, if you look straight across, there's one there. And then there's one in the little island by Cop John Drive, opposite of where the panhandlers stand. Those are the three.
Right. South of
and
it.
then, and then there's one on Route 4. That one on Route 4 is my pride and joy. That one, I can't believe V-Trans hasn't taken it down yet, but it's still there. So
They might figure they put it up.
Yeah. They had to know where it came from, but I think that, if somebody in Montpelier saw it, they'd probably freak out. But the locals are probably like, yeah, somebody finally did something.
Okay.
So we've been kind of chipping away at plow damage. I think we have it done, except for the one phone call I'm going to get in July that says I have plow damage, because that happens every year. So hopefully we have plow damage out of the way. I had a Zoom meeting with Andres and Anna from wherever they're from for the MS4 stuff. And I talked to them about I told them that we wanted to pave that neighborhood with the David, Ruth, Nancy kind of whole thing. Believe it or not, they're not any further ahead with their plans for their stormwater stuff than they were last year when I talked to them about this. So I'm not sure where we end up with that. They did kind of say that they didn't think they'd be up in the upper part of the neighborhood, to be more down toward the backside of the property or the development. So I got to see how it kind of all plays out, but I'm looking at kind of trying to pave that neighborhood next year. They did point out a couple places there's one place on Coal River Road, another place on Campbell Road that were flagged by some of their operatives. I went out and checked them out. The one on Coal River Road, we went out and cleaned that. There was a drop inlet there that nobody knew was there. We cleaned that. That thing seems to be in good condition. It just needed to be cleaned a little bit on the top. And the Campbell Road thing was an issue that's on our grants and aid for this summer anyway. So we'll be addressing that. Because it's 80 degrees out, paving is a thing. So last week, well, actually the week before last, I took the week off, and Fuller got started on paving. So Connor Drive, Karen Drive, Linda Drive, and the dead end of Blue Ridge have been paved. We went out last week, I'm sorry, and topsoiled and edged all of that. So that's all done. Bill came up one day last week, and we installed all of the dash cams on all of our rolling stock. So all of our trucks have dash cams now. So you can't get away with anything. Like if you hold your arm, like I was coming to work the other day and I held my arm on the windowsill of the truck, and it came up and it said no cell phones. The thing thought I was talking on a cell phone. Like, if you drink your coffee, a thing comes up and it's got a hamburger and a soda cup with a red line through it that says no eating or drinking.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Big Brother's
So I do
watching.
all my eating and drinking
I know,
is what I
really?
drive
Yeah,
around.
right. Right. The thing just beeps like nonstop. It's crazy. So just kind of upcoming. Hopefully, I'm renting an excavator starting next week. So hopefully next week I got a couple small projects I got to do first, and then we got to put in about 320 feet of culvert on a net terrace. So that'll be our first major project of the year. And then when we get done that, we're gonna tighten up that post road sidewalk thing, get that out of the way. And last but not least, just in case anybody sees, hears, or reads this, one of the guys found a Dodge Ram key fob up in the park. And anytime a Dodge Ram comes in, we chase them down like maniacs and ask them if they're lost a key fob. And so far, nobody. So if anybody out there knows of anybody who lost a key fob up around the park, come see us and we can verify it, because we can lock and unlock the doors for them without their knowledge.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I am.
Good. Joey's got a question.
I'm sure.
So the infamous roadside mowing.
Yes.
Have you picked a victim?
I believe it's going to be Jason.
Okay.
So I'm looking at if I can get this 320 feet of culvert put in here in the next week or so, probably around the 1st of June-ish, maybe the second week of June, go out and do like a quick one pass on everything and just knock some of this stuff down. And then once we get to, probably the middle of July or something, it'll be a more wide ranging all out attack, but it's on our list.
Okay. Well, it's just, I always harp on you about the poison parsnip and
I know you do.
Try to keep it from going to seed is all I ask.
Yeah.
And your son-in-law has pointed it out to me many times in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, but it seems to be proliferating for some reason.
Yeah, it's always well.
Question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, budget. Your expenses, income, are they on track? Okay.
I'm a little bit over right now, about 102% of budget right now. My expenses up above, or my income up above, is a little elevated, but there's like $200,000 we got back from the Town Line Road paving project, and going to spend a pretty fair percentage of that starting probably tomorrow. We're looking at doing Timber Meadow Forest and Post Road from Route 4 to Squira's intersection.
Okay.
So we're going to do a pretty good chunk of paving with that. But I'm a little bit over budget, but I got just shy of $300,000 still left in carryover. We're trying to spend down a little bit, so
yes,
not super concerned.
We'll make our auditor happy. Yes, thank you. Anything else for our town road commissioner? Do we have somewhere a list of the roads and streets that are being paved this summer that we can?
I can have the guys put it on our Facebook page, and Bill can put it on the town Facebook page.
Yes, please.
Or wherever.
Like that.
But
That's a good plan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we're gonna
you.
do there'll be those 3 or 4 streets, and then I did put in Class 2 paving grant for Post Road from the light at Route 7 up to the seam, just about a third of the way up the hill to the school. So if we get that grant, that'll be later on in the summer. But
The paving, Dave, that you're doing on Post Road, you said from Route 4 in, is that under this year's?
That is under this current fiscal year, yes.
Okay, because you did have some of it paving is the new budget that starts in July, and some of it's the old budget that started last July. Am I correct?
Right. So the stuff that I'm looking at, the forest, meadow, and timber and post road that are probably going to be done this week are the reimbursement from AOT or VTrans for the Town Line Road. The stuff that happened last week, the Connor, Karen, Blue Ridge, and Linda are for FY25.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. 4 o'clock in the morning comes early. Night.
Yeah.
Funny guy. All right. Bill Sweet.
Don't sound so excited.
Jeez.
Won't be that bad.
Been up since 5.
Good evening. Okay, so we've done pretty well getting through the list in the packet. There's just a few things left on each of those things. Did you want to go over my list first, or do you want to?
Whatever you
Okay.
would like to do.
So I'll go over my list first.
Okay.
We had our ground penetrating radar scan of the cemetery last week, and lo and behold, we found in a third of the cemetery, we found 17 unmarked graves.
Wow.
Way more than I thought. So if you come by the daytime, there are flags and lines drawn out there right now where we have those. I went out today with a overhead picture of it and did some quick measuring and things to kind of mark them where they are so we can keep them identifying. But there are none that are extremely way far over the bank.
Okay,
So
good.
we could move forward with putting up the fence or that project. But I did, and actually in our little map cubicles downstairs, I found the map for the cemetery.
Okay.
So there are a bunch of numbers which don't exist. There's a bunch of numbers of graves which don't line up with the list. So I got to see if there's a supplement there, but it's very interesting, and I'm gonna see if we can find some. But I'm going to try and find something that we can put up to at least identify where they are. So because eventually the flags are going to disappear and the paint's going to wear off, and we're not going to know where they are again. So, but very interesting, and it was a really neat process to watch them work. The electrical upgrade work for the building has actually started. The new panel is mounted. That's about as far as they've got so far. They were talking about a couple of days where they're going to need to shut power off to the building to put in the transfer switch and the meter socket. They said June 6th and 7th were really good days for them. And the clerk's office is going to be closed those 2 days as it is anyway. So as it stands, the whole building will be closed the 6th and 7th to have maintenance done on it. So we'll put that message out there to get it out. But that will be a big step in the process. But they're moving forward really well.
You put that, maybe we should put, the signboard you put out front.
Oh yeah. We're going to
idea.
use a lot of methods to get that information, because that's going to be a big change, obviously, from our normal schedule. In your packet, you have the list of scholarship recipients. There are 2 from schools that are not Rutland High School.
Mhm.
So I wasn't sure if you were going to go to MSJ again this year, if they got hold of you. I haven't heard back from them at all for when it is. So
I haven't heard anything.
okay, so we've got the class night for Rutland High. Did we want to invite those other 2 kids to a board meeting? Do we want to? I don't know how we want to communicate to them that they're going to get this award, because they don't know yet.
We're not going to tell them tonight.
No.
We are not.
No, but we do need to approve the list without, disclosing. the
Super
other
secret list.
Motion's been made to approve the list and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. And
Thanks to our scholarship.
yes,
committee.
very much. Thank you.
They did an expedited review, and it was really very,
I
very helpful.
think I'm doing class night for Rutland High School. Other folks are not available. Is that correct?
They know we are coming.
Okay.
That was the extent of
Yeah, I don't
what
want to
they've
take
asked.
away anybody's if somebody else was planning on doing it. I don't want to take it away.
Not available, unfortunately.
Okay. Sharon, do you?
I'm going to do MSJ.
Okay. All right. So I was asked to cover Rutland, so I will.
Okay.
Anybody wants to join me, they're welcome. It's kind of a fun time. And as to the other two, Sharon's doing MSJ, so that just leaves
one.
One.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to do with that?
Suggest we send an invite, but the timing would be when.
Yeah, exactly.
And then invite
So
after
the-
the graduation.
Rutland Awards Night is the 12th. So if we did like our second meeting is June is the 18th, or we could do before that. It doesn't really matter. One of those meetings in June, I would say.
Would most every graduation be done by the 18th of June, I guess?
Probably.
Yeah, the 4th might be a little early. But we invite.
Presumably they're going to graduate at this point. It's
Yeah.
just a question of when they get to.
But does that really matter?
I don't think.
Well, they have to, a bill has to be presented to be eligible to get the scholarship award. It's not just paid out. So there is actually a presentation of a bill. So
we just provide them with a letter saying we're awarding this, but he'll explain that.
Yeah, that's in there. Yes.
So do you do the letters, or
Letters are done.
the letters? Okay,
So
very
I
good.
can get those to you in the next couple of days. I'll put names on them and whatnot.
Okay.
And I'll get you the one for MSJ and then we'll just have that one. So yeah, all the letters are done. That's relatively easy. So
Okay. And so why don't we invite the other person to come in on the 18th?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Stephanie called me today to remind me that we have not responded to her statement of qualifications request email for the Route 7 North firm. So please check your emails.
I was gonna do that this afternoon.
Stephanie sent the email last week about us selecting the consultant for the project.
Right.
And evidently she wanted the answers yesterday. Dave responded. Dave got the gold star for that project. He passed, but the three of us have not. So
Aren't we doing it like, I thought we had to do this so is it?
we do, but he does it, you do it, I do it, and Dave does it, and then we come together and talk about it.
Okay, so it's all in the email form.
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's
all,
where
all the information you need is in that email.
Right.
So
Okay.
please review the three candidates as I will and come up with your list of scores and then get them to Stephanie as soon as we can.
I was gonna do
That'd be
that
good.
this afternoon.
She'd appreciate that.
Did my pager.
You mentioned the list for Kevin. I followed up with him to ask if you need anything else and never heard back. So we still have like 5 things outstanding on our part of it too. So we're gonna add a couple more to that list.
Yes, we are.
Townwide celebration flyers that we traditionally print and get to the school. We need to get them done because June 13th is the last day of school. So I've got about 3 weeks to finish the design, get them ordered, get them printed. The ordering and printing doesn't usually take them very long, but June 13th is the last day of school. We would like to get them there before then, ideally. So if there's anything we want to change on it or whatever modification we make, we should get that done as soon as we can. So if anybody has any questions, comments, I'm gonna pretty much the same format as the last couple of years. We just changed the pertinent information and maybe some of the things that are being included, but we gotta get those ordered. Got the results from the town hall energy audit today. It's like 80 something pages. So I did not go through it, but it is very detailed, very extensive, lots of recommendations and things. So it was very extensive. So we will probably send it to the building committee to digest, but it's a lot of information in there. As Dave said, we got the cameras and the vehicle information monitors put in. Very interesting. Gives a lot of data already. Yes, they do tell them when they're doing that. So I need to follow up with VLCT to ask them, because they said part of the grant reward, they're going to want to know some information and some feedback on what we found. So I got to find out from them exactly what they're looking for to make sure we actually are collecting that information. Currently, the only video capture we get is if there's a collision. If it detects a collision, it'll capture video. Beyond that, we're not recording anything to save it at the moment. So that's the rest of that list. So now we have just what's left in the packet and on the agenda.
Okay. So Personnel and Finance Committee met. I think we've covered most of the things in our various, most of it was meeting with Kari and then requesting some of the close to year-end reports from the department heads.
You talked about the transfer station and the transfer station's generator, which has never been on a maintenance schedule of any kind
Right,
anywhere.
yes. Oh, great.
So it was given to us from
Belco.
many years ago. It was rewired to work for the transfer station, but it's not a standby generator, so it's never been put on a maintenance list. So it's not been budgeted for maintenance. It's just kind of there.
It was at the highway garage. Byron took it from the fire station because we decided to go with
Get
the
a
one
bigger
that
one,
was
yeah.
now at the highway garage.
Ironically,
So that
yeah.
one went to town highway.
Yeah.
They got an electrician and got it set up so they could run either the highway garage or the transfer, because transfer station is the only building in town except for the new public safety building that's three-phase. But it's always been maintained by highway.
Yep.
So what's your pleasure? Do we add it to
I would
the-
just leave it the way it is. I wouldn't, because that one is
highway maintain it. And
they'll take, if it needs oil change and whatever, because that one does not come on automatically. If they lose power at the highway garage or at the transfer station, they are going to have to get that, set it up, plug it in, start it. So it would probably, Dave's guys can make sure it runs once or twice a year, make sure it's all happy and because the transfer station is only open 2 days a week, yes, there's probably a chance that eventually there's going to be open and there's going to be no power, but it's not on the same level as fire or this building or the others where.
And the only thing they really lose the ability to do is run the trash compactor. The doors are manual. I mean, everything else is.
The lights don't work without power, but.
No, but
it is mostly daylight.
Right.
Unless
So-
it's winter, then it's not. So
but that was brought up. So I wanted to touch base on that it is not part of a maintenance schedule. That's really never really been talked about before. So
And Larry's question was about buying it. He was talking about buying a trailer to put it on so it could be moved around. And, Mary sent out the email to department heads basically saying, let's not spend right now.
Right.
I don't know if you checked his email. It does occur to me, Mary, that he's not been on this list of department heads, and probably a couple times a year we ought to invite him.
I know.
it could be just located where it needs to be up there and doesn't need it, because that's the only building it's going to be used on,
right.
as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't know what it's.
The problem is where it's stored right now, as I understand it, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure he's talked to you about that. It's hard. You can't plug it in. He has to move it, I guess, in order to plug it in.
Yeah.
Let's move it outside.
Yeah.
So
to run
he
it.
was talking about building a shed for it. Now he's talking about maybe a trailer would make more sense in part because you can move it over there, and then if you had to take it for maintenance. But if maintenance isn't an issue, then that's one less thing. So
I don't know if we can run it inside.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can run it. I mean, even
Yeah.
Wide open.
Yeah.
Doors open.
it is pretty well ventilated in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably worth further discussion. But
So
yeah,
It might, for $3,000, you could almost pour a little slab and put a little building up and put it where it needs to be.
we're gonna do that with a porta potty too.
Well,
Baby steps. Baby steps.
I don't know.
but now the porta potty idea, I don't like on the slab but I do like the
I think
generator
as long as
because
we
that's where
pour
most
the
of them are
slab
mounted.
in
Anyway, we're
existing
not gonna spend
pavement,
any money the rest of this year.
we don't
right?
have to do
We
anything
can avoid it.
because
I mean, unless it's within his budget, either
Yeah, I don't know.
maintenance or whatever.
well,
but yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to.
we can invite him in the next. You want to invite him in the next for the next meeting? Put him
Sure.
on the list. Okay,
Yeah, why don't we do that?
all right.
And yeah,
I'll put him at the top of the list and
Okay.
kick Dave down a little bit.
thank
so.
you. All right, next.
Next, you have the change orders for the public safety building,
Okay,
which are in the packet.
in your packet B, John Paul sent around the change order and then the potential change orders and the ones that have been approved and rejected and so on. But the pending change order is the one that's on the second page. It's number 10. And it relates to the ledge removal. And we were getting updates on that. And yes, there was extra ledge there. So the amount is $33,750. What's your pleasure?
Pay for it.
Kind of.
Yeah. And that doesn't put us over our contingency monies.
Be pretty close, aren't we?
198 out of 250.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the bulk of that was that unsuitable soil that really bit us hard.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the change order.
And have me sign this one.
Have, the chair sign on behalf of the town.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion. If not,
It's kind of one of those is what it is type of things. There.
We're going to tell them to put it back.
Yeah, I mean they're 90 yards over on what their contract allowed. So
okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
The last thing you have is the amendment to the list of public and non-public roads for adding Partridge Place. So there are a couple typos in this, but this is just an example basically of what it's going to look like. But if you vote to add Partridge Place, like we talked about last time, at the top of Crestway, at the end of the town, then it would start the process, and we'll send the warnings and do all the things that add a road name.
So do we need to make a motion to?
Yes, you would.
What do we do? We're amending this, right?
You would need to vote to amend the road name and road location ordinance to add Partridge Place to the list of public and non-public roads.
So moved.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion. We talked about it quite a bit last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That's most of that.
That's everything on my list.
Grand list extension request. I signed the wrong one.
Oh,
They look alike, so I'm just going to leave it. It's fine.
that's fine.
Okay, AM Peisch. The item 2, I'm assuming you folks, everybody.
Yeah,
got copies?
there's a copy on everybody's desk. Yep.
Okay, this, every year we enter into an audit agreement with them. They are the folks who do our audit. Andrew Simons is the principal who usually works with us. And it looks like the cost estimate this year is 18,000. Last year it was 17. I mean, it's been in this vicinity before.
That comes out of the next budget, right?
Yes.
Remind me, and I feel like you told me this a couple of weeks ago, but does this include the special audit we have to do?
The single audit? I know they were talking about that, but I don't know.
We don't have, no, I don't think it does.
I don't think it does.
This would be-
Because they charge us that much to do the regular audit. And
Right. I think what he told me was we were going to qualify for that streamlined version that we had
Yes.
talked about, which was good news, but
He came in the other day and asked about that. So yeah,
presumably that's a separate engagement.
it would be, yes.
Yeah.
Really what this was left for me to send to you guys. So I don't know what
Okay.
really is involved, so.
Well, could we remind him that we probably need a separate letter on the single audit?
We can live. I'm sure he knows. So he came in and because we're looking at the list of grants that we have and what we plan to spend for federal money, and we're not going to spend anything that's going to put us over that list. So
Okay.
So yeah, we're in good shape.
So we don't need it yet, but it
Right.
will.
The current fiscal year.
Yeah. There's only a few things in the grant money that are substantial funds. One of them is Route 7 North Sidewalk, and we're not going to be spending.
That's
we're not
true.
ready for that yet.
Okay.
So
I thought so what was the story with the ARPA thing then?
there's an exemption for the ARPA things, and because of that, we're gonna that he said we should be able to be good with the pared down version of that audit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so that's still a second audit that we need to do in the
Yes,
coming fiscal year.
separate from this. This is our normal every year regular audit.
So move we approve and allow the chair to sign.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve hiring AM Peisch for our regular audit with the chair to sign. Discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Any opposed? I never can tell whether we're the management signature or the governance signature.
Governance?
I have no idea. I'm just gonna sign the top one.
Well,
Carrie, I know Carrie has signed the other one.
If it's wrong, he'll tell us. We'll send it.
you might be signing on, government might be the select board and management might be Kari. But that's just my thought. But,
Oh, that's just one of many things.
okay. But
Okay.
that's just me.
All right, we have, let's see, I think that's everything. Let's look at the, would you please draft a letter, from the select board to Jack McCamley, thanking him for his work on behalf of the town?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks. I'm assuming you folks are good with that.
Now that you mention it, I didn't notice in the letter that he said that the timing of his resignation was. Are we assuming that's immediate or the end of the fiscal year? Or
It was immediate.
Yeah.
Yes.
See you later, bye.
Marcia is,
I must tender my resignation.
I noticed that as well, but I'm talking to Marcia, it's effective. She's gonna get the key from him. He does have the key for their office door, but we've removed the door code, so.
Okay. Municipal officials reappraisal checklist.
That was from Marcia. She just left. She wanted to give that to you in case you had any questions on
Okay,
on that.
and detailed appraisal compliance plan. That's also from
Same.
Marcia.
Yes.
Okay. And
That was just for you. That was, she just wanted to have, like, if anybody wanted to read it, it was.
okay,
You got nothing to do.
If you're
yeah.
so inclined to.
And is that everything?
I think that's
on the
everything.
list? Let's see, special election. Well, I didn't check with departments on the townwide celebration attendance, but well, I didn't.
When you email them the
comp time policy,
comp time policy, just ask them if they're going to be part of the town.
Yeah.
Just send it in the same email.
If you want comp time, come to.
They'll read
If you
part
want
of it.
comp time, you gotta show
Yeah,
up.
well, there you go. There you go. Did that. Okay, do we have any reason to meet in executive session?
I hope a transaction to report on.
No. Because the transaction in question needs review by the other side's attorney.
Okay.
Which is a good thing. I mean, I would feel more better.
All right, move to adjourn.
Motion's made to adjourn, seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.